What happens when the people you love most betray you in the worst possible way? Georgia had just returned from a business trip, ready to dive into the excitement of her upcoming wedding. But when she stepped into her apartment, everything changed. Her wedding dress was gone. As she scrolled through social media, she found the truth her fiancé, Maine, had married her sister Nevada in her wedding dress. Stay tuned to find out how Georgia takes back control of her life. And don't forget to subscribe for more jaw-dropping stories. I had always believed betrayal came from enemies, not from the people you love most. But life has a cruel way of shattering illusions and proving you wrong. I had just returned from a business trip exhausted but excited when I sensed something was off. The air in my apartment was thick with the scent of vanilla, a fragrance I knew all too well. My sister's perfume. Confused, I stepped inside and made my way to the bedroom, my heart pounding as I opened the closet. My wedding dress was gone. Before I could even process what was happening, my phone rang. It was Virginia, my best friend. The moment I picked up, her voice was oddly steady, almost hesitant. "Georgia, sit down," she said. My heart leaped into my throat. Virginia only spoke like that when something was terribly wrong. "What's going on?" I asked, panic creeping into my voice. There was a long pause before she finally said, "Maine and Nevada got married yesterday, in your dress." The words hit me like a sucker punch to the stomach. I felt the blood drain from my face as I squeezed the phone tighter, my knuckles turning white. "What?" I whispered, unable to fully process it. "It's all over social media," Virginia continued. "I tried calling you, but your flight was delayed. I thought you knew." I couldn't breathe. I had been gone for just a few days, and in that short time my fiancé and my sister had stood at an altar, exchanged vows, and stolen everything that should have been mine. And then it all clicked. Nevada's recent coldness, Maine's sudden interest in my wedding plans, the way they both pushed me to take this business trip despite the tight timeline. I had been blind. "I need to go," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "Georgia, wait." But I ended the call. Shaking, I opened Instagram. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the pictures. Maine, wearing my wedding dress, holding Nevada's hand, both of them smiling as if they hadn't just crushed my world. The caption read, "When you know it's meant to be. Sorry, sis, but sometimes love can't wait." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. They had no idea what was coming. Just then, my phone buzzed again. A text from Texas, my mentor. "Deal sealed. You now own controlling interest in Harrington Enterprises. Announcement goes public next week. Congratulations." A slow, cold smile spread across my face. Harrington Enterprises, the same company Nevada's family had been struggling to save for the past year. And now, it was mine. The doorbell rang, snapping me out of my thoughts. I opened the door to find Iowa, Maine's best friend, standing there, her face full of regret. "Georgia," she said softly, "I'm so sorry." I tried to stop her. I stepped aside, letting her in. "Tell me everything." Iowa hesitated before sitting on my couch. Her hands were wrung together, guilt written all over her face. "It was planned for weeks," she admitted. "Maine told Nevada you were cheating on him. She even staged fake messages between you and your business partner. And when he confronted her about his doubts, she told him that fate had brought them together, that you were too focused on your career to love him the way he deserved." I clenched my fists. "And my dress? My apartment key?" "She stole your spare key weeks ago," Iowa said, her voice barely above a whisper. "She wanted to make sure you wouldn't stop her." I inhaled sharply, forcing myself to stay calm. The old me would have screamed, cried, demanded answers. But I wasn't that person anymore. I had leverage now. I had power, and I was going to use it. Iowa hesitated. "They're having a celebration dinner tonight at Bella's." I exhaled slowly. "Good to know." She looked up at me, surprised. "You're not going to do anything reckless, are you?" I smiled, but it didn't reach my eyes. "Oh, Iowa," I murmured, standing up. "You should know me better than that. Because I never played to participate. I played to win." I stared at my phone, scrolling through the endless flood of comments and likes beneath Maine's latest Instagram post. "When you know it's meant to be. Sorry, sis, but sometimes love can't wait." I laughed, not because it was funny. No, there was nothing amusing about my fiancé and my sister betraying me, but because they truly had no idea what they had walked into. They thought they had won. They thought I was broken. But I was already planning my next move. My phone buzzed with another notification, this time from Texas. Final paperwork is ready. Once you sign, it's official. I walked over to my desk, sat down, and opened my laptop. One final click. That was all it took to strip Nevada of everything he had spent his life trying to preserve. His family's company, the one he had fought tooth and nail to save, was now mine. I exhaled, watching the confirmation email come through. Georgia Monroe, majority shareholder of Harrington Enterprises. It had a nice ring to it. As if on cue, my phone rang. Nevada. I let it ring. Then I let it ring again and again. Finally, I picked up. Georgia, please, he started, his voice urgent. You don't understand. It's not what it looks like. Oh, I interrupted, keeping my tone light. So you didn't marry my sister in my wedding dress? Silence. That's what I thought, I said, smiling to myself. I hope you two are very happy together. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have more important things to deal with. Business. You know how it is. Georgia, wait! I hung up. Virginia arrived shortly after, arms crossed, worry etched into her features. You're too calm, she said, and I don't mean that in a good way. I poured 2 glasses of wine and slid one across the counter to her. What would you rather I do? I asked. Cry? Scream? Throw things? Virginia hesitated. I don't know. Maybe just feel something. Oh, I feel something, I assured her. I feel focused. I feel ready. She studied me for a long moment before sighing. You're terrifying when you're like this. I smiled. Good. Texas arrived next with the final details. We need to discuss the gala, he said. The announcement about your acquisition is set for next week. Everyone important will be there, including Nevada's family. Make sure they all receive invitations, I instructed. Make it impossible for them to refuse. Virginia shook her head. This isn't just business, Georgia. You want them to see you win. I met her gaze. Why shouldn't they? That evening, I walked into LeBlanc, the upscale restaurant where Maine and Nevada were celebrating their new life together. The maitre d' looked up. Miss Monroe, do you have a reservation? I smiled. Table for 1. Heads turned as I entered the room. Maine, sitting at the center of the table, went deathly pale. Nevada's jaw tightened, his posture stiffening in discomfort. Georgia, Maine began, standing abruptly. I cut her off smoothly, accepting the menu from the waiter with a practiced grace. Don't let me interrupt, I said casually, taking a seat. I just came for the lamb. It's excellent here, isn't it, Nevada? We used to order it every anniversary. Nevada's face drained of color. Maine's friends exchanged uneasy glances, their whispers filling the room as the tension grew palpable. You should join us, one of Nevada's business associates suggested, trying to ease the uncomfortable silence. I smiled, a slow, deliberate smile. That's very kind, but I wouldn't want to impose. Besides, I've got some work to review before next week's big announcement. Nevada's head snapped up. What announcement? Oh, you'll find out soon enough, I said, taking a sip of my wine. The gala invitation should have reached you by now. I'm sure it'll be a night to remember. Maine shot to her feet, grabbing my arm. We need to talk. Now. I let her drag me toward the restroom, eyes locked on her as I walked. Once the door clicked shut, she turned to face me, her voice trembling. Georgia, please, I know you're angry. Angry? I repeated, tilting my head slightly. No, Maine, I'm not angry. Her eyes filled with desperation. You don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said, taking a step closer. You lied. You stole. You betrayed me. And for what? A man who was never yours to begin with? She flinched at the words. We didn't mean to hurt you. I let out a soft, bitter laugh. Oh, sweetheart, you didn't mean to? You wore my dress. You planned this for months. But here's the thing. Betrayal has consequences. A sharp knock interrupted us. Maine? Nevada's voice rang through the door. "Is everything okay?" I turned, unlocking the door with a smooth motion and meeting his gaze. "Oh, everything's fine," I said sweetly. "We were just having a little sisterly chat." Nevada's eyes darted between us, filled with confusion and unease. "Georgia, by the way, Nevada," I said, tilting my head. "How's the company doing? I heard some interesting things about last quarter's financials." His expression shifted, darkening. "How do you—" I patted his cheek lightly as I walked past him. "You should really pay more attention, darling." Back at my table, my phone buzzed, pulling me back to reality. I glanced at the screen, a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk about Nevada Harrington. Meet me tomorrow at 10 o'clock a.m. Capital Coffee. Ask for Delaware." I stared at the message for a moment. Then another text popped up. "I have information you'll want to hear before the gala." Across the room, Maine and Nevada sat in silence, their celebration completely destroyed. The waiter approached my table. "More champagne, miss?" I shook my head, keeping my expression neutral. "No, but please send a bottle to my sister's table." I raised my glass in their direction. They thought they had won, but they had no idea I was just getting started. I arrived at Capital Coffee 10 minutes early, scanning the crowded cafe for the person I was meant to meet. There, in the corner, a man in a charcoal suit sat relaxed, his posture casual, but his eyes sharp. He waved me over as I approached. "You must be Georgia Monroe," he said with a knowing smile as I sat down across from him. "And you must be Delaware," I replied. He slid a folder across the table. "I'm the external auditor for Harrington Enterprises. I think you're going to want to see this." I opened it, my eyes scanning the documents. Bank statements, wire transfers, records of money being funneled out of the company. Millions of dollars. My stomach tightened. "Nevada's been stealing from his own company," Delaware said. "But here's where it gets interesting. The money isn't in his accounts. It's in accounts under your sister's name." My breath caught. "Maine." He nodded. "I don't think she knows. The accounts were created months ago with transactions Nevada initiated. I've seen this before. He's setting her up. If this ever came to light, he'd blame her, claim she was behind it all." I closed the folder slowly. So this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was about fraud, and Nevada was willing to throw Maine under the bus to save himself. "Does the board know?" I asked. "Not yet," Delaware said. "I was preparing my report when I heard about your acquisition. I figured you might want to handle this before I go public." My phone buzzed. "Iowa." I hesitated, then answered. "Georgia, Maine is freaking out," she said. "She got bank statements for accounts she doesn't recognize. Nevada told her it was a banking error, but she doesn't believe him. She's scared." I exhaled slowly. "Tell her to keep those statements safe, and tell her not to sign anything Nevada gives her." "Georgia, what's going on?" "I'll explain soon," I said before hanging up. I turned back to Delaware, determination hardening my voice. "We need to move fast. The board meeting is this afternoon. I want Nevada blindsided." Delaware smirked. "I like the way you think." Back in my apartment, Virginia and Texas were waiting. "How bad is it?" Virginia asked. I tossed the folder onto the table. "Worse than we thought. Nevada's not just a liar. He's a criminal." Texas flipped through the documents, his expression unreadable. "If the board sees this, he's finished." "Then let's make sure they do," I said. "Texas, you need to make sure I have their full support when I take over." Virginia crossed her arms. "And Maine?" I hesitated. "She's a victim in this too, but that doesn't mean I forgive her." "Not yet." Virginia sighed. "Just don't let revenge be the only thing driving you." "This isn't just revenge," I said. "This is business." The emergency board meeting was set for 3 o'clock p.m., and I arrived early, watching as the members trickled in. Harrington senior executives, key investors, Nevada's own father. They were all here, and then, at exactly 3:05, Nevada walked in. His eyes locked onto mine, confusion flickering in them before turning into suspicion. "What the hell is this?" Texas stood. "We're here to discuss recent financial concerns within Harrington Enterprises." Nevada scoffed, adjusting his suit. "Financial concerns? Oh, please." Delaware entered the room, setting up his laptop. "Let's begin, shall we?" Nevada paled. He recognized him. The moment Delaware projected the financial statements onto the screen, the room fell silent. "For the past year," Delaware began, "millions have been siphoned from the company into private accounts under Maine Monroe's name. However, upon further investigation, we found that every transaction was authorized by Nevada Harrington." Gasps rippled across the table. Nevada stood abruptly. "This is ridiculous! My fiancée—" "You mean your wife," I cut in smoothly. "The one you married in my dress." He clenched his fists. "This is a setup!" Delaware clicked to another screen. Emails, transfer approvals, Nevada's own digital footprint. "This is undeniable evidence of fraud," Delaware said. Nevada's father stood. "Is this true, Nevada?" Nevada stammered, his composure slipping. I was consolidating funds. It was temporary." The board members murmured amongst themselves. The tide was shifting. I leaned forward. "So, Nevada, tell me, if you were consolidating funds, why did you make sure all the transactions led back to Maine?" His face drained of color. He had no answer. I turned to the board. "Harrington Enterprises is in a crisis. The only way forward is new leadership." I paused for effect. "Effective immediately, I'm proposing that Nevada step down." Nevada's father nodded. "I second that motion." One by one, hands went up, unanimous. "Well," I said, leaning back in my chair, "that settles that." Security moved in. Nevada lunged toward me, but they grabbed his arms, restraining him. "You think you've won?" he spat. I stood, meeting his glare with a slow smile. "Oh, Nevada," I murmured. "I didn't just win. I ended you." They dragged him out. After the meeting, Maine waited outside, her arms wrapped around herself. She looked lost, broken. "You knew," she whispered. "You knew all along." "I found out yesterday," I admitted. Tears welled in her eyes. "He never loved me, did he?" I sighed. "He loved what you could do for him. That's not the same thing." She swallowed hard. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I don't know what to do." I handed her Virginia's card. "She's the best fraud lawyer in the city. Call her. Fix this." She looked at the card, then back at me. "And us?" I hesitated. "We're not there yet." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "I understand." As I walked away, my phone buzzed, a text from Delaware. "Now that the board's handled, let's talk about the gala. I have a feeling Nevada's not done making a scene." I smirked. Oh, I was counting on it. The first time I walked into the boardroom as CEO, I expected whispers, stares, resistance. But what I found was something different. Respect. The board members, most of whom had voted Nevada out just days ago, sat in attentive silence as I took my seat at the head of the table. Texas had prepared briefing documents. Delaware had finalized the transition plan, and I had spent the last 24 hours ensuring I was ready. This was no longer about revenge. It was about rebuilding. "Let's get started," I said, my voice steady. "We have a lot of work to do." The meeting ran like clockwork. Every department reporting back, plans being structured. The damage Nevada had left behind wouldn't be easy to fix, but I wasn't here for easy. I was here to win. Afterward, Virginia was waiting for me in my office, her expression unreadable. "You need to see this," she said, placing a file on my desk. I flipped it open. Bank records, testimonies, more victims. "This isn't just about Harrington Enterprises," she continued. "Nevada's been pulling this for years across multiple companies, and we just found more people he scammed." I exhaled slowly. "How many?" "At least 23 confirmed." I leaned back, the weight of it all settling over me. He wasn't just a liar or a cheater or a fraud. He was a predator, a cold, calculating predator, feeding on trust and leaving devastation in his wake. A knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Delaware stepped in, nodding at Virginia before turning to me. "You've got someone you need to meet." He led me down the hallway to the conference room. Inside, a woman sat with her hands folded tightly in her lap, her posture rigid with a combination of nervousness and resolve. "This is Montana," Delaware said. "My sister." She looked up, her eyes sharp but weary, as though she'd seen too much. She was one of Nevada's first victims. I pulled out a chair and sat across from her. "Tell me everything." And she did. The same story, with different details. Nevada had made her believe they were in love, had convinced her to put her name on business loans, and then left her financially ruined when everything collapsed. "I thought I was the only one," she admitted, her voice hollow, weighed down by years of betrayal. I glanced at Virginia's file. "You weren't." She swallowed hard, the truth hitting her just as it had hit me. "So what now?" I didn't hesitate. "We fix this. All of it." Later that afternoon, Maine showed up at my office. She fidgeted with the hem of her sleeve, her movements betraying her nervousness. "I met with the fraud lawyers," she said quietly. "They think I can clear my name if I cooperate." I nodded. "Good." She hesitated, the uncertainty still lingering. "I don't know how to make this right, Georgia." "You can't," I said simply. "But you can try." I slid a folder toward her. She frowned, opening it with cautious fingers. "What's this?" "A job offer," I replied. "Director of the Victims Advocacy Department." Her head snapped up. "You want me to lead it?" I leaned forward, my voice steady. "You've been on both sides of this. You fell for Nevada's lies, but now you know better. Help the others." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why would you do this for me?" I met her gaze, unwavering. "Because I'm done letting Nevada ruin people's lives, including yours." She swallowed hard, nodding slowly. "Don't mess this up," I warned. "I won't," she whispered. That evening, I found myself sitting on the rooftop of Harrington Enterprises, the city lights sparkling beneath me like a million tiny promises. "Mind some company?" I turned to see Delaware standing there, his hands in his pockets, his silhouette bathed in the soft glow of the lights. I nodded, and he sat beside me, the silence between us comfortable, almost familiar. "You did the right thing," he finally said. "Which part?" He smiled. "All of it." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the day settling between us, before he added, "You know, I don't think Nevada ever realized just how badly he underestimated you." I smirked. Men like him never do. He turned fully to face me. "So what happens now?" I exhaled, the air filling my lungs like a deep, cleansing breath. "We move forward. We make things right." "And you?" he asked softly. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time, I felt something stirring inside me. I think I finally get to start over. He reached for my hand, his fingers brushing against mine. I let them stay there, the connection between us almost electric. For the first time in weeks, I felt something close to peace. The courtroom was silent as the judge prepared to deliver the sentence. Nevada sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit, looking smaller than he ever had before, a man who once thought he was invincible, now reduced to nothing. "The defendant has shown a repeated pattern of fraud and manipulation," the judge said, his voice carrying the weight of truth. "The impact of his actions has been extensive." Maine sat behind me, Virginia and Delaware flanking her. Their presence was a reminder of how far I'd come. How far we all had come. "Taking into account the severity of these crimes," the judge continued, "this court sentences the defendant to 15 years in federal prison." A hush fell over the room. Beside me, Maine let out a shaky breath. Nevada shot me one last glare as they led him away. I held his gaze, unwavering, a quiet satisfaction filling me. Outside, the press swarmed. Reporters shouted questions. "Miss Monroe, how does it feel to see justice served?" I stopped, turning to face the cameras. "This was never just about justice," I said, my voice firm. "It was about protecting people. It was about making sure no one else ever suffered at his hands again." And with that, I walked away from the courthouse, away from the chaos. I didn't just win a company. I won something more important, control over my own destiny. What do you do when your entire world is shattered by the people you trusted the most? When betrayal doesn't come from an enemy, but from the people you loved, the ones you thought would always have your back? Georgia never imagined this kind of betrayal would come from her sister and fiancé. But when she walked into her apartment to find her wedding dress gone and discovered that Maine and Nevada had secretly married in it, everything she knew was turned upside down. What followed was a series of manipulations and lies, and even after the heartbreak, she realized something important: she had power. Instead of breaking down, Georgia used her pain as fuel. She didn't seek revenge. She took control. The company Nevada's family had been struggling to save for years, it was now hers. And as Maine and Nevada celebrated, she quietly prepared to dismantle their world with a strategic, calm precision they never saw coming. Georgia's strength wasn't in her anger. It was in her ability to rise above. As Nevada's empire crumbled and Maine faced the consequences of her actions, Georgia's calm resolve and sharp business acumen showed them all exactly who they had underestimated. So, what would you do in her shoes? Would you let the betrayal break you, or would you use it to build something even stronger? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you found Georgia's story powerful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more.
I stared at the glowing screen of Adam's phone, my heart pounding in my chest. The message from Claire blinked innocently, but its contents were anything but. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Same place?" My fingers trembled as I set the phone back on the nightstand. Adam's soft snores filled our bedroom, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I slipped out of bed, padding quietly to the kitchen of our cramped apartment. The clock on the microwave read 2:17 a.m. I gripped the edge of the counter, willing my breathing to slow. This had to be a mistake. There had to be an explanation. "Em?" Adam's sleepy voice startled me. "What are you doing up?" I turned, forcing a smile. "Just getting some water. Go back to sleep." He yawned, running a hand through his tousled hair. "You okay? You look pale." "I'm fine," I lied. "Really?" Adam shrugged, shuffling back to bed. I watched him go, my mind racing. Should I confront him now? Demand answers? Or wait and see what happened? The next morning, I went through the motions of getting ready for work. Adam kissed me goodbye, same as always. "Have a great day, hon." "Love you." "Love you too," I echoed, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. At the nonprofit where I worked, I couldn't focus. My coworker, Jen, noticed immediately. "Emily, what's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." I hesitated, then spilled everything. Jen's eyes widened as I told her about the text. "Oh, sweetie," she said, squeezing my hand. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to follow him, see where he goes, but that feels wrong." Jen shook her head. "No, you need answers. If he's cheating, you deserve to know." The rest of the day crawled by. When 5 o'clock finally arrived, I raced to my car. Adam usually got home around 6:30. I had time. I parked down the street from our apartment, my stomach in knots. At 6:15, Adam's car pulled up, but instead of going inside, he walked to the corner and hailed a cab. My hands shook as I started the engine, following at a safe distance. We wound through the city until the cab stopped outside a trendy bar downtown. I watched, bile rising in my throat as Adam strode inside. 5 minutes later, a pretty blonde woman arrived. She glanced around before entering the bar. Tears blurred my vision as I fumbled for my phone. I snapped a picture just as the woman disappeared inside. "Oh, Adam," I whispered. "How could you?" I don't know how long I sat there, numb with shock and betrayal. My phone buzzed, a text from Adam. "Working late tonight, babe. Don't wait up." Anger surged through me, hot and fierce. I started the car, my mind made up. No more lies, no more excuses. As I pulled into our parking lot, my phone rang. It was Adam's mother, Lily. "Emily, dear." Her syrupy voice grated on my nerves. "I was thinking of stopping by tomorrow. Adam mentioned you two might be ready to start looking at houses. I have some ideas." "Now's not a good time, Lily," I cut her off. "I'll have to call you back." I ended the call, ignoring her protests. Taking a deep breath, I marched up to our apartment. It was time for a reckoning. The lights were off when I entered. I flicked them on, revealing the shabby furniture and peeling wallpaper. How had I let Lily convince us this dump was all we could afford? I grabbed a suitcase from the closet and began throwing Adam's clothes inside. Each item fueled my rage. By the time I heard his key in the lock, I was ready. Adam stumbled in, reeking of alcohol and perfume. He froze when he saw me. "Em, what's going on?" I met his confused gaze, my voice steady. "I think it's time we had a talk, Adam, about Claire." 3 months had passed since that fateful night. Adam swore it was a one-time mistake, begged for forgiveness. Like a fool, I believed him. Now, as I stared at our dwindling bank account, I wondered if I'd made the right choice. Did you hear what I said? Adam's voice snapped me back to reality. We sat at our rickety kitchen table, bills spread before us. Sorry, what? He sighed, exasperated. I said, Mom thinks we should look at that new condo development downtown. I blinked, stunned. Adam, we can barely afford this place. How could we possibly... Mom says she'll help with the down payment, he interrupted. She thinks it's a great investment. Of course she did. Lily always had an opinion on our finances, our careers, our entire lives. I bit back a retort, trying to stay calm. That's generous, but I'm not comfortable taking money from your mother. Adam's face darkened. Why not? She's just trying to help. Help control us, you mean? I muttered. What was that? I forced a smile. Nothing. Look, can we talk about this later? I have to get ready for work. As I gathered my things, my phone buzzed. A text from my mom, dinner this weekend? Before I could reply, Adam appeared behind me. Who's that? Just my mom, I said, pocketing the phone. She wants to have dinner. Adam frowned. This weekend? But we're supposed to look at condos with my mother. I stared at him, incredulous. When did we decide that? I told you last night, he insisted. You must not have been listening. The argument that followed was brief but intense. In the end, I caved. Again. Fine, I snapped. Tell your mother we'll go. At work, I couldn't focus. Jen found me hiding in the supply closet, fighting back tears. Oh, honey, she said, pulling me into a hug. What happened? I spilled everything, the condo, Lily's interference, Adam's attitude. Jen listened, her expression growing more concerned. Emily, she said gently, are you sure this is what you want? You seem so unhappy. I wiped my eyes, straightening my shoulders. It's just a rough patch. We'll get through it. But as the weekend approached, my anxiety skyrocketed. At a Saturday morning, I found myself trailing behind Adam and Lily as they toured a sleek, modern condo. Isn't it perfect? Lily gushed, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against the granite countertop. Adam, darling, this is exactly what you need. I bristled at her words. What Adam needed, not what we needed. The realtor, a perky blonde named Sarah, turned to me. What do you think, Mrs. Thompson? Can you see yourself living here? Before I could answer, Lily cut in. Oh, she loves it. Don't you, Emily? I forced a smile, my hands clenched at my sides. It's nice. Adam shot me a warning look. I knew that look. It meant, don't start anything. As Sarah led us to the master bedroom, my phone vibrated. A text from my dad. Everything okay, sweetie? Haven't heard from you in a while. Guilt washed over me. I'd been so caught up in this condo nightmare I'd neglected my own parents. Emily! Lily's sharp voice made me jump. Put that phone away. This is important. I looked up to see all three of them staring at me. Lily annoyed, Adam embarrassed, Sarah confused. Something inside me snapped. You know what? I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I need some air. I turned and walked out, ignoring Adam's calls. In the hallway, I leaned against the wall, trembling. What was I doing? This wasn't the life I wanted. This wasn't the marriage I dreamed of. My phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification from our joint bank account. A large transfer had just been made, the down payment for the condo. I stared at the screen, my vision blurring with tears. Adam had done it, without even asking me. As I heard their footsteps approaching, I made a decision. It was time to stand up for myself, time to fight for the life I deserved. Taking a deep breath, I squared my shoulders and prepared for the confrontation that was about to come. The condo felt like a gilded cage. 2 weeks after moving in, I found myself staring out the floor-to-ceiling windows, longing for our old, cramped apartment. At least there, I'd felt at home. The sound of a key in the lock made me tense. Adam or Lily? These days, it was hard to tell who'd come barging in uninvited. Emily, darling. Lily's shrill voice echoed through the space. Where are you? I plastered on a smile and turned to face my mother-in-law. Hi, Lily. I didn't know you were coming over. She waved a manicured hand dismissively. Oh, I was in the neighborhood. Thought I'd drop by and see how you're settling in. Her eyes narrowed as she surveyed the living room. You haven't unpacked everything yet? I bit back a retort. We've been busy with work. It's a process. Lily clicked her tongue. Well, we can't have that. I'll call my interior decorator. She'll have this place looking fabulous in no time. That's really not necessary. Nonsense, Lily interrupted. It's the least I can do. After all, I helped you get this lovely home. The way she emphasized helped made my skin crawl, as if we were children who couldn't manage on our own. Actually, Lily, I said, finding my voice, Adam and I were thinking of decorating ourselves. Make it our own, you know? Lily's smile tightened. Oh, sweetie, that's adorable. But let's leave it to the professionals, shall we? We wouldn't want it looking cheap. Before I could respond, she was on her phone, chattering away to her decorator. I retreated to the kitchen, my hands shaking as I poured myself a glass of water. This was supposed to be our fresh start, our chance to rebuild after Adam's indiscretion. Instead, it felt like Lily was taking over our lives more than ever. The front door opened again, and Adam's voice drifted in. Mom, what are you doing here? I stayed in the kitchen, listening to their muffled conversation. When Adam finally appeared, he looked sheepish. Hey, Em. Sorry about this. You know how Mom gets. I set down my glass, harder than necessary. Yeah, I do. The question is, why do you let her? Adam's face darkened. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm tired of your mother making decisions for us. I snapped. This is our home, Adam. Ours, not hers. She's just trying to help, he argued. Why can't you be grateful? Grateful? I laughed bitterly. For what? For undermining every choice we make? For treating me like I'm not good enough for her precious son? Adam's jaw clenched. That's not fair. Mom loves you. No, Adam, she loves controlling you, and by extension, me. Our raised voices must have carried, because suddenly Lily appeared in the doorway. Is everything all right in here? I opened my mouth to speak, but Adam cut me off. It's fine, Mom. Just a little disagreement about decorating. Lily's eyes gleamed with interest. Oh, well, I'm sure we can sort that out. Emily, dear, why don't you tell me your ideas? I'm sure we can find a compromise. The condescension in her tone was the last straw. You know what, Lily? I don't want to compromise. This is my home, mine and Adam's, not yours. The room fell silent. Adam looked horrified, while Lily's face turned an alarming shade of red. Well, she said, her voice dangerously low, I see someone's forgotten their manners. Adam, are you going to let her speak to me like that? I turned to my husband, silently pleading with him to stand up for me, for us. But as I watched the conflict play out on his face, I knew he would choose her. He always did. Em, he said softly, maybe you should apologize. In that moment, something inside me broke. This beautiful condo, this fresh start, it was all a lie. Nothing had changed, nothing ever would. I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. I need some air, I muttered. As I stepped into the hallway, I heard Lily's voice behind me. Really, Adam, I don't know why you put up with her attitude. The elevator doors closed on Adam's reply, and I leaned against the wall, fighting back tears. I'd thought moving here would fix things. Instead, it had only made everything worse. As the elevator descended, I realized I had a choice to make. Stay and fight for a marriage that was slipping away, or find the strength to walk away and reclaim my life. The doors opened, and I stepped out into the sunlight, unsure of where to go, but knowing I couldn't stay here any longer. I sat in my parents' cozy living room, clutching a mug of tea, trying to find the words to explain the mess my life had become. Mom and Dad exchanged worried glances as I recounted the latest drama with Lily and Adam. Oh, sweetheart, Mom said, reaching out to squeeze my hand. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Dad's face was a storm cloud. That woman has no right to treat you this way. And Adam, he needs to grow a spine. I nodded, fighting back tears. I just don't know what to do anymore. It's like I'm losing myself in their world. The sharp trill of my phone cut through the moment. Adam's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Em, where are you? His voice was tight with tension. Mom's been trying to reach you all day. I bit back sarcastic reply. I'm at my parents'. I needed some space. Space? Adam sounded incredulous. We have that dinner with my boss tonight. You knew that. The dinner. I'd completely forgotten. I'm sorry, Just get home, he interrupted. Mom's already here to help you get ready. The line went dead before I could respond. I stared at the phone, a knot forming in my stomach. Everything okay? Dad asked, his brow furrowed with concern. I stood, gathering my things. I have to go. There's this work dinner for Adam. Mom frowned. Emily, honey, maybe you should stay here tonight. You seem exhausted. Part of me wanted nothing more than to curl up in my childhood bedroom and forget the world. but I knew the fallout wouldn't be worth it. I'll be fine, I assured them, forcing a smile. I'll call you tomorrow. The drive home felt like a march to the gallows. As I entered the condo, Lily's voice hit me like a physical force. There you are, she exclaimed, rushing over. Honestly, Emily, how could you be so irresponsible, running off like that when you knew how important tonight is? I opened my mouth to defend myself, but Adam cut in. It doesn't matter now. She's here. Let's just get ready. Lily clucked her tongue, eyeing me critically. Well, we'll have to work quickly. I've laid out a dress for you. Go shower, and I'll do your makeup. For a moment, I considered turning around and walking right back out the door. But Adam's pleading look stopped me. Please, Em, this dinner could mean a big promotion. Defeated, I nodded and headed for the bathroom. As the hot water washed over me, I tried to steel myself for the evening ahead. An hour later, I stood before the mirror, barely recognizing myself. The dress Lily had chosen was tight and low-cut, nothing like my usual style. My face felt heavy with makeup. Perfect, Lily beamed, adjusting my hair. Now you look like a proper executive's wife. The words stung more than they should have. Is that all I was now? An accessory to Adam's career? As we prepared to leave, my phone buzzed with a text from Mom. Hope you're okay, sweetie. We're always here if you need us. A lump formed in my throat. I started to type a reply, but Lily's sharp voice interrupted. Emily, phone away. It's time to go. I looked up to see Adam already halfway out the door, Lily hovering impatiently behind him. Neither of them seemed to notice or care about my discomfort. In that moment, something shifted inside me. I thought about my parents' warm concern, contrasted with the cold expectations surrounding me now. I thought about the woman I used to be, confident, independent, and the shell I'd become. Actually, I heard myself say, my voice stronger than I expected, I don't think I'll be joining you tonight. Adam froze, turning slowly to face me. What? Lily's eyes narrowed dangerously. Don't be ridiculous. Of course you're coming. I stood my ground, heart pounding. No, I'm not. And I think it's time we had a serious talk about our future, Adam. All of us. The silence that followed was deafening. I watched emotions flicker across Adam's face. Confusion, anger, and finally, fear. He knew, as well as I did, that this was a turning point. Whatever happened next would change everything. The tension in the room was palpable as Adam, Lily, and I faced each other. I'd changed out of the tight dress, back into my comfortable jeans and sweater, feeling more like myself. Emily, Adam began, his voice strained. What's this all about? We're going to be late. I took a deep breath. We need to talk about us, Adam, about our future. Lily scoffed. This is ridiculous. You're jeopardizing Adam's career over what? A little family disagreement? It's not little, I countered, my voice stronger than I felt. It's our life, and I'm tired of feeling like I don't have a say in it. Adam's face softened slightly. Em, I know things have been tough, but... Tough? I laughed bitterly. Adam, I feel like I'm disappearing, like everything that makes me who I am is being erased. Lily stepped forward, her eyes flashing. Now you listen here, young lady. Adam has given you a beautiful home, a comfortable life, and this is how you repay him? Mom, Adam warned, but she was on a roll. You should be grateful. Instead, you're throwing a tantrum like a spoiled child. What about your parents, Emily? Did they put these ideas in your head? The mention of my parents was the spark that ignited the powder keg. Leave them out of this, I snapped. They've done nothing but support us. Support? Lily sneered. They're holding you back. Adam, tell her. Tell her how her parents are dragging you down. I turned to Adam, shock and hurt coursing through me. What is she talking about? Adam shifted uncomfortably. It's nothing, Em. Just some things Mom and I discussed. What things? I demanded. Lily jumped in, about how your parents are always asking for help, how they're a financial burden. Adam agrees it's time to cut ties. The room spun. I stared at Adam, silently begging him to deny it, but his silence spoke volumes. You, I whispered, my voice breaking. You want to cut my parents out of our lives? Em, it's not like that, Adam pleaded. We just think it might be best if we focused on our future, on building our own family. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My parents have never asked us for anything. They've only ever tried to help. Help? Lily scoffed. By filling your head with nonsense about independence and following your dreams? Please. It's time you grew up, Emily. I turned to Adam, tears stinging my eyes. And you agree with this? He hesitated, then nodded slowly. I think Mom has a point, Em. We need to start putting ourselves first. In that moment, something inside me shattered. The man I loved, the man I thought I knew, was siding with his mother over me, over my family. I see, I said, my voice eerily calm. Well then, I guess I know where I stand. I moved towards the bedroom, but Adam caught my arm. Em, wait, where are you going? I shook off his grip. I'm packing a bag. I can't stay here tonight, maybe not ever. Don't be dramatic, Lily snapped. Adam, tell her she's being ridiculous. But Adam just stood there, conflict etched across his face. Em, please, we can work this out. I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw a stranger. A man so entangled in his mother's web that he couldn't see the damage he was causing. Can we? I asked softly. Because from where I'm standing, it seems like you've already made your choice. I turned and walked into the bedroom, my heart pounding. As I threw clothes into a suitcase, I heard Lily's shrill voice and Adam's muffled responses. But I tuned them out, focusing on the task at hand. When I emerged with my bag, Adam was alone, Lily having finally left for the dinner. Emily, he said, his voice breaking. Please don't go. I met his gaze, feeling a strange mix of sadness and resolve. I have to, Adam. I need time to think, to figure out if there's anything left to save here. As I reached for the door, Adam called out one last time. I love you, Em. I paused, my hand on the doorknob. I love you too, Adam, but right now, that's not enough. With that, I stepped out into the hallway, closing the door on the life I'd known. As I rode the elevator down, I realized I was facing a crossroads. Stay and fight for a marriage that was crumbling, or leave and rediscover the woman I used to be. The choice, I knew, would change everything. 2 weeks had passed since I'd walked out of the condo. 2 weeks of soul-searching, of rediscovering who I was without Adam's shadow looming over me. I'd been staying with my parents, their unwavering support a balm to my battered spirit. But it was time. Time to face the music, to decide once and for all if my marriage was worth saving. I stood outside the condo door, key in hand, heart pounding. Adam's texts had been a mixture of apologies and pleas over the past fortnight. Part of me hoped that this separation had been a wake-up call for him. Taking a deep breath, I unlocked the door and stepped inside. The first thing that hit me was the silence. No TV blaring, no Lily's shrill voice offering unsolicited advice, just quiet. Adam? I called out, my voice echoing in the empty space. No response. I moved through the living room, noticing small changes. My favorite throw pillow was missing. The photos of my family were gone from the mantel. A chill ran down my spine as I approached the bedroom. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear muffled sounds coming from inside. My hand trembled as I pushed the door open. The world stopped. There, tangled in our sheets, the ones I'd picked out when we first moved in, was Adam. And he wasn't alone. A blonde head peeked out from under the covers, and I found myself staring into the startled eyes of Claire, Adam's coworker. For a moment, no one moved. Then Adam scrambled up, wrapping a sheet around his waist. I can explain. But I was already backing away, my vision blurring with tears. I turned and ran, Adam's desperate calls fading behind me. I made it to the elevator before the sobs hit, racking my body as I slumped against the wall. How could he? After everything we'd been through, how could he do this? My phone buzzed incessantly, Adam, no doubt, trying to reach me. I silenced it, unable to deal with his excuses. Instead, I called the one person I knew would understand. Jen, I choked out when she answered. Can you come get me? I'm at the condo. 20 minutes later, I was in Jen's car, recounting the horrific scene I'd walked in on. That bastard, Jen seethed, gripping the steering wheel. I'll kill him. I shook my head, feeling hollow. I can't believe it. Was I so blind? How long has this been going on? Jen's expression softened. Oh, honey, this isn't your fault. Adam's the one who broke his vows. As we drove, my shock slowly gave way to anger. Years of compromises, of bending to Adam's and Lily's will flashed through my mind. And for what? To be betrayed in the most painful way possible? I want to destroy him, I whispered, surprising myself with the vehemence in my voice. Jen glanced at me, a fierce glint in her eye. Then let's destroy him. You've got options, Em. Legal options. My phone buzzed again, this time with a text from Lily. How dare you upset Adam like this? Call him back immediately. Something snapped inside me. The last thread of hope, of love, severed cleanly. "You're right," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I need a lawyer, and I need to document everything." Jen nodded approvingly. "That's my girl. We'll start making calls tomorrow. For now, let's get you somewhere safe." As we pulled up to Jen's apartment, I felt a strange mix of devastation and determination. My marriage was over. That much was clear. But this wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of my revenge. I stepped out of the car, leaving behind the naive, accommodating Emily. In her place stood a woman scorned, a woman ready to fight for herself. Adam and Lily had no idea what was coming, but they were about to find out. The office of Harriet Sloane, divorce attorney extraordinaire, buzzed with an energy that matched my own determination. I sat across from her, a thick folder of evidence spread between us. "Well, Emily," Harriet said, her steely eyes gleaming, "I must say, you've given me quite a lot to work with." I nodded, my jaw set. "I want everything I'm entitled to, and then some." Harriet smiled, a predatory grin that sent a shiver down my spine. "Oh, we'll get that and more. Adam's infidelity, combined with the financial records you've provided, let's just say he's in for a rude awakening." As we discussed strategy, my phone buzzed incessantly. Adam, again. I silenced it without a second thought. "Now," Harriet continued, "about the condo." A commotion outside interrupted us. Raised voices, a scuffle. Suddenly the door burst open, revealing a disheveled Adam and an irate Lily. "Emily!" Adam cried, his eyes wild. "Please, just talk to me." I stood, fury coursing through my veins. "How dare you come here? This is a private meeting." Lily pushed past Adam, her face contorted with rage. "You ungrateful little—" "That's quite enough," Harriet interjected, her voice sharp as a blade. "Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Thompson, I suggest you leave immediately before I call security." Adam stepped forward, his hands outstretched. Baby, please, we can work this out. I made a mistake, but I love you." I laughed, a bitter sound that surprised even me. "Love? You call what you did love? You betrayed me, Adam. You and your mother both." Lily bristled. "Now see here." "No, you see here," I snapped, years of pent-up frustration pouring out. "You've controlled our lives for too long. You pushed me aside, belittled me, tried to cut me off from my own family. Well, guess what? It ends now." Adam's face paled. "What are you saying?" I turned to Harriet, who nodded encouragingly. "I'm saying I want a divorce, and I'm going to take you for everything you're worth." The room fell silent. Adam staggered back as if I'd physically struck him. Lily's mouth opened and closed, for once at a loss for words. "You can't do this," Adam finally whispered. "What about our life together? Our future?" "Our future," I echoed incredulously. "You threw that away the moment you decided to sleep with Claire." Adam's eyes widened in shock. Lily gasped, turning to her son. "You didn't." "Oh, he did," I confirmed, a grim satisfaction settling over me. "In our bed, no less." The look of betrayal on Lily's face almost made me laugh. Almost. "Adam," she hissed, "is this true?" He fumbled for words, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him. "Mom, It's not." "Save it," I cut in. "I have all the evidence I need. Now both of you, get out." Security arrived, summoned by Harriet's discreet call. As they were escorted out, Adam made one last desperate plea. "Emily, please. I'll do anything. We can start over, just the two of us. No more interference, I promise." For a moment I wavered. The look in his eyes, so familiar, so full of regret. But then I remembered the sight of him with Claire, and my resolve hardened. "Goodbye, Adam," I said quietly, turning away. As the door closed behind them, I sank back into my chair, exhausted but exhilarated. Harriet watched me carefully. "Are you all right?" she asked. I took a deep breath, feeling lighter than I had in years. "Yes," I replied, surprised to find I meant it. "I think I finally am." Harriet nodded approvingly. "Good. Now let's get back to business. We have a lot of work to do." As we dove back into the details of the divorce proceedings, I felt a spark of excitement. For the first time in years, I was taking control of my life. The road ahead would be challenging, but I was ready. Adam and Lily had underestimated me for the last time. Now it was my turn to show them exactly what I was capable of. 1 year. It had been 1 year since I'd walked out of that condo, leaving behind a life that no longer fit. As I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my blazer, I barely recognized the woman staring back at me. Gone was the meek, accommodating Emily. In her place stood someone stronger, fiercer. Today was the day. The final hearing in my divorce proceedings against Adam. I'd fought tooth and nail for every concession, every dollar. Harriet had been a godsend, guiding me through the legal labyrinth with a shark-like tenacity that matched my own newfound determination. As I entered the courthouse, I spotted Adam and Lily huddled together, looking haggard and defeated. Adam's eyes met mine, a flicker of regret passing over his face. I held his gaze unflinching before turning away. The proceedings were a blur of legal jargon and tense negotiations, but when the judge finally announced her decision, time seemed to stand still. In light of the evidence presented, the court rules in favor of the plaintiff, Emily Thompson. I closed my eyes, relief washing over me as the judge detailed the settlement. The condo, half of Adam's savings, alimony. It was more than I dared hope for. As we filed out of the courtroom, Lily accosted me, her face twisted with fury. "You've ruined him," she hissed. "Are you happy now?" I met her gaze calmly. "No, Lily, you ruined him. You and your constant meddling, your toxic influence. I just finally stood up for myself." Adam appeared behind her, looking shell-shocked. Save it, Adam." I cut him off. "It's over. Really, truly over." As I walked away, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. It was done. I was free. Months passed. I threw myself into my work at the nonprofit, channeling my newfound energy into causes I believed in. I reconnected with old friends, rebuilt my relationship with my parents. Slowly but surely, I rediscovered the joy in life that I'd lost during my marriage. Then, on a crisp autumn evening, my phone rang. Lily's name flashed on the screen. I hesitated, then answered. "Emily?" Lily's voice was small, broken. I need your help." She went on to explain how Adam had spiraled after the divorce, losing his job, turning to drinking. She was at her wit's end. "Please," she begged. "You're the only one who might be able to get through to him." For a moment, I was tempted. The old Emily would have rushed to help, would have sacrificed her own well-being for others. But I wasn't that woman anymore. "I'm sorry, Lily," I said. My voice firm but not unkind. "But that's not my responsibility anymore. Adam's choices are his own, just like yours. I hope you both find the help you need, but it won't be from me." I ended the call, a sense of finality settling over me. It was the last thread connecting me to my old life, and I'd just cut it clean. Later that night, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment, watching the city lights twinkle below. My phone buzzed with a text from Jen. "Drinks tomorrow to celebrate your promotion?" I smiled, typing back a quick, "Absolutely." As I gazed out at the skyline, I felt a profound sense of peace. The journey had been hard, painful at times, but I'd emerged stronger, wiser, more true to myself than I'd ever been. I thought about the woman I was a year ago, trapped in a loveless marriage, constantly bending to the will of others. She seemed like a stranger now. "You did it, Emily," I whispered to myself, raising my glass in a silent toast. "You survived. You thrived." The future stretched out before me, full of possibilities. For the first time in years, I was excited to see where life would take me next. Whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew I had the strength to face them. As the cool night air caressed my face, I closed my eyes, savoring the moment. This wasn't an ending, I realized. It was a beginning. My beginning. And I couldn't wait to see what came next. I pushed open the front door, my bones aching after a grueling night shift at the ER. The house was quiet, too quiet for 7 a.m. Usually Leon would be bustling around the kitchen, brewing coffee and packing Tyler's lunch for school. "Leon?" I called out, kicking off my shoes. "Tyler?" No answer. My heart quickened as I rounded the corner into the living room. There, on our faded floral couch, sat Leon. A large suitcase rested at his feet. "What's going on?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why are you home at this hour and with luggage?" Leon's eyes met mine, and I saw a mixture of guilt and determination that made my stomach churn. "We need to talk, Irma," he said, his voice steady. "It's about us. And Edith, I'm leaving." The room spun. I gripped the doorframe to steady myself. "Edith, your secretary? What do you mean you're leaving?" Leon stood, running a hand through his salt and pepper hair. "I've been having an affair with Edith for months now, and she's pregnant." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stumbled to the armchair across from him, collapsing into it. "Pregnant?" I repeated, the word tasting like ash in my mouth. "How far along?" 7 months, Leon replied, not meeting my eyes. 7 months. The realization dawned on me slowly, then all at once. The conference in Chicago, I said, my voice hollow. You told me you were going alone. Leon nodded, his shoulders slumping. I'm sorry, Irma. Bliss, I never meant for this to happen, but I can't ignore my feelings anymore. I want a divorce. A divorce? The word echoed in the suddenly too small room. What about Tyler? What about our family? Tyler's almost grown, Leon said, as if that made it all okay. He'll understand eventually. Anger flared within me, hot and fierce. Understand that his father is abandoning his family for a woman half his age? That you're throwing away 17 years of marriage? Leon flinched, but stood his ground. I know this is a shock, Irma, but Edith and I, we have a connection. She understands me in a way you never have. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Oh, I'm sure she does, and I'm sure it has nothing to do with the fact that she's young and doesn't have crow's feet or stretch marks. It's not like that, Leon protested weakly. Then what is it like? I demanded, rising to my feet. Explain it to me, Leon. Help me understand how you could do this to us. Before he could answer, the front door opened. Tyler's voice called out, Mom? Dad? Why are you both home? Leon and I froze, staring at each other. In that moment, I saw a flicker of doubt cross Leon's face. But then he squared his shoulders and called out, In here, son. Tyler appeared in the doorway, his backpack slung over one shoulder. His eyes darted between us, taking in the suitcase, the tension crackling in the air. What's going on? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. How could I tell our son that his father was leaving us? Leon stepped forward, his voice gentle. Tyler, there's something we need to talk about. Your mother and we're going to be separating. Tyler's face crumpled. What? Why? I found my voice then, fierce and protective. Your father has decided he'd rather start a new family with his secretary. Irma, Leon warned, but I ignored him. Tyler's eyes widened in disbelief. Dad, is that true? Leon sighed heavily. It's complicated, son, but yes, I'm leaving. I'm sorry. Tyler's face hardened, a look I'd never seen before settling over his features. So you're just going to abandon us? Just like that? Tyler, please try to understand. Leon began, but Tyler cut him off. Understand what? That you're a selfish jerk who doesn't care about anyone but himself? Tyler spat, tears welling in his eyes. He turned to me, his voice breaking. Mom? I pulled him into my arms, holding him tight as he began to sob. Over his head, I met Leon's gaze, my own eyes blazing with a mixture of pain and determination. You want to leave? I said, my voice low and dangerous. Then go. But don't think for a second that this is over. You have no idea what you've just started. The day after Leon left, I found myself sitting at my kitchen table, staring blankly at a cold cup of coffee. The house felt empty, hollow. Tyler had barely spoken a word since his father's departure, shutting himself in his room. The doorbell rang, startling me out of my daze. I opened the door to find Tessa, my best friend since college, standing there with a determined look on her face. All right, spill it, she said, marching past me into the kitchen. I got your cryptic text. What's this about Leon leaving? I sank back into my chair, the weight of everything crashing down on me. He's having an affair with his secretary, Edith. She's pregnant. Tessa's jaw dropped. There's more, I interrupted. He wants a divorce. Tessa's eyes flashed with anger. Oh, hell no, we're not letting him get away with this. Before I could respond, there was another knock at the door. I opened it to find my mother, Lorraine, standing there with a suitcase. Mom? I said, surprised. What are you doing here? I'm here to help, of course, she said, bustling past me. A mother always knows when her child needs her. I shot Tessa a panicked look. My relationship with my mother was complicated at best, and her traditional views often clashed with my more modern outlook. Irma, dear, Lorraine said, settling herself at the kitchen table, you need to fight for your marriage. This Edith woman cannot take what's yours. I felt a flare of irritation. Mom, I don't know if fighting is the right answer, but I won't let him walk away so easily. Tessa nodded approvingly. That's right. We need a plan. A plan? Lorraine looked scandalized. The only plan you need is to win your husband back. Have you let yourself go, Irma? Maybe if you put in a little more effort. Mom, I snapped. This isn't about me letting myself go. Leon made a choice to betray our family. Tessa leaned forward, her eyes gleaming. What if we dig into this Edith character? I bet she's not as innocent as she seems. I hesitated, torn between my desire for answers and my fear of what I might find. I don't know. Nonsense. Lorraine interjected. A good wife doesn't snoop, she trusts her husband. A good husband doesn't cheat, Tessa shot back. As they argued, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Leon. We need to talk about the house. I'm coming over tomorrow. My heart raced. He's coming here tomorrow, I said, interrupting their bickering, to talk about the house. Lorraine perked up. Perfect. This is your chance to win him back. Tessa rolled her eyes. Or your chance to show him what he's losing. I stood up, suddenly feeling suffocated. I need some air, I muttered, heading for the back porch. Outside, I took deep breaths, trying to clear my head. The sound of the door opening made me turn. It was Tyler. Mom, he said, his voice small. Are you okay? I forced a smile. I'm fine, honey. Just thinking. He came to stand beside me, looking out at the yard. I heard Grandma and Tessa arguing. What are you going to do? I sighed, wrapping an arm around his shoulders. I don't know yet, but whatever happens, we'll get through it together. Okay? Tyler nodded, leaning into me. I hate him for doing this to us, he whispered. His words hit me like a punch to the gut. I realized then that this wasn't just about me and Leon anymore. It was about our family, about Tyler. I know, sweetie, I said, hugging him tighter. I'm angry, too, but we can't let that anger consume us. As we stood there, I felt a resolve building within me. I didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't let Leon or Edith destroy what I'd spent years building. I turned back to the house, where I could still hear Tessa and my mother arguing. It was time to take control of this situation. Time to show Leon exactly what he was walking away from. And if that meant uncovering some uncomfortable truths about Edith along the way, well, so be it. The morning Leon was due to arrive, I woke early, my stomach in knots. Tessa had stayed over, camping out on the couch to offer moral support. As I made coffee, she joined me in the kitchen, her hair a mess but her eyes alert. Ready for battle? She asked, accepting a steaming mug. I nodded grimly. As I'll ever be. The doorbell rang at precisely 10 a.m. Leon always was punctual, even in the midst of destroying our family. I opened the door, steeling myself. Irma, he said, his voice softer than I expected. Can I come in? I stepped aside wordlessly, leading him to the kitchen where Tessa sat, arms crossed. Leon's eyebrows rose slightly at her presence, but he said nothing. Let's get this over with, I said, sitting down. You wanted to talk about the house? Leon cleared his throat. Yes, I think it would be best if you and Tyler stayed here. I'll find an apartment. How generous of you, Tessa muttered. I shot her a warning look before turning back to Leon. And the mortgage? The bills? I'll continue to pay my share, of course, he said. I want to make this as easy as possible for everyone. Something in me snapped. Easy? I laughed bitterly. How could you do this to our family, Leon? He flinched, guilt flashing across his face. I'm sorry, Irma. Edith's the one I want now. I can't change how I feel. And what about how Tyler feels? I demanded. Have you even thought about what this is doing to him? Leon's face crumpled. Of course I have. I love Tyler. You have a funny way of showing it, Tessa interjected. Before Leon could respond, my phone buzzed. I glanced at it, frowning at the unfamiliar number. Hello? Is this Irma Lawson? A woman's voice asked. Yes. Who's this? My name is Sandra. I used to work with Edith. There's something you need to know. My heart raced. Go on. Edith has a history of, using men for personal gain. She's done this before at our old company. Got involved with the CEO, claimed she was pregnant. It was a whole mess. I gripped the phone tighter, aware of Leon and Tessa's curious stares. Thank you for telling me, Sandra. Can we meet? After arranging to meet Sandra later that day, I hung up, my mind reeling. What was that about? Leon asked. I looked at him, seeing him clearly for the first time in days. He looked tired, conflicted. Part of me wanted to tell him everything, to shake him and make him see how he'd been manipulated. But another part, a stronger part, wanted answers first. Nothing important, I lied smoothly. Now about the house. We hammered out the details, Leon agreeing to more than I expected. As he prepared to leave, he hesitated at the door. Irma, I am sorry. For everything. I met his gaze steadily. Sorry isn't enough, Leon, not this time. After he left, Tessa turned to me expectantly. Spill, what was that phone call really about? I told her everything Sandra had said, watching her eyes widen. Holy crap, she breathed. So Edith's a professional homewrecker? Seems like it, I said grimly. And I'm going to find out everything I can about her. Tessa grinned, a fierce light in her eyes. Count me in. Operation Takedown Edith is a go. As we began to plan, I felt a mix of emotions swirling within me: anger at Leon's betrayal, determination to protect my family, and a growing desire for justice. Or was it revenge? One thing was certain: Edith had no idea who she was messing with, and by the time I was done, she'd regret ever laying eyes on Leon Lawson. The cafe was bustling when I arrived to meet Sandra. Tessa had insisted on coming along, her presence a comforting anchor in the storm of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. Sandra was easy to spot, a petite woman with graying hair and kind eyes. As we sat down, she leaned in, her voice low. "I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, Irma, but I couldn't stand by and watch Edith destroy another family." I took a deep breath. "Tell me everything." For the next hour, Sandra painted a picture of Edith that made my blood run cold. Multiple affairs, each ending with claims of pregnancy and demands for money. A trail of broken marriages and shattered lives left in her wake. "She's ruthless," Sandra finished, "and she always gets what she wants." I felt sick. "Does she ever actually have the babies?" Sandra shook her head. "Never. There's always a convenient miscarriage right after she gets a big payout." Tessa's hand found mine under the table, squeezing tight. "We need to tell Leon," she said, but I hesitated. Would he even believe me? Or would Edith's hold on him be too strong? As if summoned by my thoughts, my phone buzzed with a text from Leon. "Need to talk. Can you meet me at the house in an hour?" I showed Tessa the message, my heart racing. "This is it," I said. "I have to confront him with what we know." We thanked Sandra and left, my mind whirling with plans. At home, I gathered the evidence we'd collected. Bank statements showing large transfers from Leon's account to Edith's, photos of her with other married men, Sandra's sworn statement. Tessa helped me organize everything into a folder. "Are you sure you want to do this alone?" she asked, worry etched on her face. I nodded. "I have to. This is between me and Leon." As I waited for Leon to arrive, I paced the living room, rehearsing what I'd say. But when he walked in, all my carefully prepared words evaporated. He looked haggard, his eyes red-rimmed. "Irma," he said, his voice cracking, "I've made a terrible mistake." For a moment, hope flared in my chest. But then he continued, "Edith wants me to sell the house. She says we need the money for the baby, for our new life together." Rage surged through me. "And you're actually considering it?" Leon wouldn't meet my eyes. "I don't know what else to do. She says if I don't, she'll leave, take the baby and disappear." I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. "Oh, Leon, you poor deluded fool." His head snapped up, confusion and anger warring on his face. "What's that supposed to mean?" I grabbed the folder, thrusting it at him. "It means you've been played. Edith is a con artist, Leon. This is what she does. Seduces married men, fakes pregnancies, bleeds them dry." Leon's face paled as he flipped through the documents. This can't be true." "It is," I said, my voice steady. "And deep down I think you know it. You just didn't want to see it." He sank onto the couch, his head in his hands. "What have I done?" he whispered. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to say we could work it out. But a stronger part, the part that had been forged in the fire of his betrayal, held firm. "You've destroyed our family," I said, "and now you have a choice to make. You can continue down this path with Edith, sell our home, and lose everything. Or you can wake up and fight back." Leon looked up at me, his eyes pleading. "What should I do?" I shook my head. "I can't make that decision for you, Leon, but I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to expose Edith for who she really is, with or without your help." As I turned to leave, Leon called out, "Irma, wait, I want to help. Tell me what to do." I paused at the door, my hand on the knob. This was it, the moment that would define everything that came after. I took a deep breath and turned back to face my husband, ready to plan our next move. The charity gala was in full swing when I arrived, my heart pounding beneath the sleek black dress I'd chosen for the occasion. Leon stood by my side, his face a mask of nervous determination. We'd agreed that confronting Edith here, in public, was our best chance of exposing her true nature. "Are you sure about this?" Leon whispered as we made our way through the crowd. I nodded, my jaw set. "It's time to end this, once and for all." We spotted Edith across the room, her pregnancy on full display in a form-fitting gown. She was chatting animatedly with a group of Leon's colleagues, her hand resting possessively on her swollen belly. As we approached, I saw the moment Edith noticed us. Her eyes widened, then narrowed, a calculating look crossing her face. "Leon, darling," she called out, her voice syrupy sweet. "I didn't expect to see you here, and—" "Irma, what a surprise." I forced a smile. "Hello, Edith. We need to talk." Edith's smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered. "Of course, dear. Why don't we step outside for a moment?" As we moved to a quieter corner of the ballroom, I could feel the tension radiating off Leon. This was it, the moment of truth. "What's this about?" Edith asked, her hand protectively cradling her belly. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "It's about your lies, Edith, all of them." Her face hardened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I think you do," I said, pulling out the folder of evidence. "We know about your past, Edith. The other men, the fake pregnancies, the cons." Edith's eyes darted between me and Leon, her composure cracking. "Leon, don't listen to her. She's just a bitter wife who can't the truth." But Leon stood firm. "Is it true, Edith? Have you been lying to me this whole time?" Edith's demeanor changed in an instant. Gone was the sweet, vulnerable facade. In its place was a cold, calculating woman. "So what if I have?" she spat. "You were so easy to manipulate, Leon. A few tears, a fake pregnancy test, and you were putty in my hands." I watched as the color drained from Leon's face. "The baby," he whispered. Edith laughed, a harsh, mocking sound. "Oh, there's a baby all right, but who knows if it's yours? You're not the only man I've been seeing, Leon." The admission hit us both like a physical blow. I'd suspected, of course, but hearing it confirmed was something else entirely. "You've lied about everything," I said, my voice shaking with anger. "All you care about is yourself." Edith turned to me, her eyes blazing. "And what about you, Irma? You think you're so much better? Look at you, scheming and plotting. You're no different from me." Her words struck a chord, making me question everything I'd done. Was I really any better than Edith? Had my desire for revenge turned me into someone I didn't recognize? Before I could respond, Leon stepped forward. "That's enough, Edith. It's over. Whatever game you were playing, you've lost." Edith's face contorted with rage. "You think this is over? I'll ruin you, Leon. I'll take everything you have." As she stormed off, leaving us standing there in shocked silence, I realized we'd won. But at what cost? The truth was out, but the damage had been done. Leon turned to me, his eyes filled with remorse and confusion. "Irma, I don't know what to say. I've been such a fool." I looked at him, really looked at him for the first time in weeks. The man I'd loved for 17 years, the father of my child, stood before me, broken and humbled. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to say we could work it out, but another part, the part that had endured the pain and betrayal, held back. "What happens now?" Leon asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I took a deep breath, knowing my next words would shape our future. The easy path would be forgiveness, trying to rebuild what we'd lost. But as I stood there, I realized I had a choice to make, not just for myself, but for Tyler, for our family. "Now," I said, my voice steady, "we figure out how to move forward. But Leon, I need you to understand something. Things can never go back to the way they were." As I watched the realization dawn on Leon's face, I felt a strange mix of sadness and liberation. The confrontation with Edith had exposed more than just her lies. It had laid bare the cracks in our own relationship, the trust that had been irreparably broken. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The days following the confrontation with Edith were a blur of legal meetings and tense conversations. Leon had moved back home, sleeping in the guest room while we tried to navigate our new reality. But the fragile peace we'd established was about to shatter. I was in the kitchen, mechanically stirring a pot of soup, when I heard the front door slam. Tyler stormed in, his face a mask of fury. "He's still talking to her," he spat, throwing his backpack on the floor. I saw them together at the coffee shop near school. My hand froze on the spoon. "What? Are you sure?" Tyler nodded, his eyes brimming with tears. "They were arguing. I heard him say he couldn't just abandon her, that he had responsibilities." The room spun. I gripped the counter to steady myself, bile rising in my throat. After everything we'd been through, after all the lies we'd uncovered, Leon was still torn. As if summoned by our conversation, Leon walked in, his face pale and drawn. He stopped short when he saw us, the guilt written plainly across his features. "You saw her," I said, my voice flat. It wasn't a question. Leon sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's complicated, Irma. The baby might not even be yours, I exploded, the weeks of pent-up anger and hurt finally boiling over. How can you still be considering this? Tyler stepped between us, his young face set in lines of determination that made him look far older than his 15 years. You're choosing her over us? He demanded. Over your own family? Leon flinched as if he'd been struck. Tyler, no, that's not. Then what is it, Dad? Tyler's voice cracked. Because from where I'm standing, that's exactly what it looks like. I watched as the reality of the situation finally seemed to dawn on Leon. He looked from Tyler to me, his eyes wide with dawning horror. I'm sorry, he whispered. Tyler, I didn't realize how much this was hurting you. But Tyler wasn't done. Years of bottled-up pain and resentment came pouring out. You've barely been here for months. You missed my basketball finals, my science fair, and for what? For her? Each word seemed to hit Leon like a physical blow. He stumbled back, collapsing onto a kitchen chair. I've made such a mess of everything, he murmured. I wanted to comfort him, to say we could work it out, but the anger that had been simmering for weeks finally boiled over. You don't get to play the victim here, Leon. You made your choices. Now you have to live with the consequences. Just then, Leon's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, his face paling further. It's Edith, he said. She says if I don't come over right now, she'll get rid of the baby. The kitchen fell silent. I could see the war raging behind Leon's eyes, the pull of obligation against the love for his family. Go, I said, my voice cold. If that's what you really want, then go. But understand this, if you walk out that door, don't bother coming back. Tyler's head snapped up, his eyes wide. Mom, I held up a hand, silencing him. This was between me and Leon now. Leon stood slowly, his movements heavy. He looked at Tyler, then at me, tears streaming down his face. I'm so sorry, he whispered, for everything. And then he was gone, the sound of the front door closing echoing through the suddenly too quiet house. Tyler turned to me, his face a mix of anger and desperation. How could he just leave like that, after everything? I pulled him into a fierce hug, feeling his body shake with sobs. I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know. As I held my son, I felt something inside me harden. Leon had made his choice. Now it was time for me to make mine. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. I would do whatever it took to protect Tyler and rebuild our lives, with or without Leon. The sound of a car engine starting outside made Tyler stiffen in my arms. We both knew it was Leon driving away from us, towards Edith, towards the life he thought he wanted. What do we do now? Tyler asked, his voice muffled against my shoulder. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the battle ahead. Now, I said, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. We fight, for ourselves, for our family, and we don't look back. As the sound of Leon's car faded into the distance, I felt a strange mix of grief and determination wash over me. This was far from over, but for the first time in weeks, I felt ready to face whatever came next, on my own terms. The silence in the house was deafening. Tyler had retreated to his room, and I found myself pacing the living room, my mind racing. It had been hours since Leon left, and the uncertainty was eating away at me. Suddenly, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Leon. Meet me at Edith's apartment. Now. My heart raced as I called out to Tyler. I have to go out. Stay here and lock the doors. Mom, what's going on? He asked, his voice laced with worry. I forced a smile. I'm not sure, but I'll be back soon, I promise. The drive to Edith's apartment was a blur. When I arrived, I found Leon sitting on the steps, his head in his hands. He looked up as I approached, his face a mask of anguish. Irma, he said, his voice breaking. I've made a terrible mistake. Before I could respond, the door behind him flew open. Edith stood there, her eyes, her pregnant belly protruding beneath a tight shirt. So, the wife finally shows up? She sneered. Come to beg for your husband back? I straightened my spine, meeting her gaze. I'm here because Leon asked me to come, nothing more. Edith laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. Well, isn't that sweet? Too bad he's not going anywhere. Are you Leon? Leon stood, slowly, positioning himself between us. That's enough, Edith. I'm done with your lies. Edith's face contorted with rage. Lies? You want to talk about lies? How about the fact that this baby might not even be yours? The words hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Leon stumbled back as if he'd been struck. What are you talking about? Edith's smile was cruel. Oh, Leon, did you really think you were the only one? You were just a means to an end, a comfortable life, financial security. That's all I wanted from you. I watched as the last vestiges of Leon's delusion crumbled. He turned to me, his eyes pleading. Irma, I don't know what to say. But Edith wasn't finished. She advanced on us, her voice rising hysterically. You think this changes anything? I'll ruin you both. I'll take everything you have. In that moment, something inside me snapped. All the pain, the anger, the betrayal of the past months came rushing to the surface. I stepped forward, my voice low and dangerous. No, Edith, you won't. Because if you try, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly who and what you are. Every lie, every con, every man you've manipulated. It all ends here. Edith's face paled, but her eyes blazed with defiance. You're bluffing. You have nothing on me. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screen. Are you sure about that? I have statements from your previous victims, bank records, even a confession from your own mother. It's over, Edith. For a moment I thought she might lunge at me. But then, like a puppet with its strings cut, she crumpled to the ground, sobbing. Leon moved towards her, but I caught his arm. Don't, I said firmly. She needs help, but not from you. Not anymore. As if on cue, police sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. I had called them before arriving, a precaution that now seemed prescient. Leon turned to me, his face a mix of gratitude and shame. Irma, I'm so sorry for everything. Can we try to fix this? I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in months. The man I had loved, the father of my child, stood before me, broken and humbled. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to say we could work it out, but another part, the part that had endured the pain and betrayal, held firm. I don't know, Leon, I said honestly. Right now, I need to focus on Tyler, on healing our family. Whatever happens between us, that's going to take time. As the police cars pulled up and officers approached, I felt a strange sense of calm wash over me. The storm that had been raging for months was finally breaking. What came next, I didn't know, but for the first time in a long time, I felt ready to face it. On my own terms. I turned to Leon, my voice steady. Let's go home. Tyler's waiting. As we walked away from Edith's apartment, leaving the chaos behind, I realized that this wasn't an ending, it was a beginning. A chance to rebuild, to redefine what family meant to us. And whatever the future held, I knew one thing for certain. We would face it together. Stronger for having weathered this storm. The weeks following the confrontation with Edith were a whirlwind of legal meetings, therapy sessions, and long, difficult conversations. Leon had moved back into the house, sleeping in the guest room, while we tried to navigate our new reality. But the fragile peace we'd established was about to face its ultimate test. I was in the kitchen, absently stirring a pot of coffee, when Leon walked in. His face was drawn, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. Irma, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Can we talk? I nodded, bracing myself for whatever was coming. Leon took a deep breath. I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us, about everything that's happened. I know I've made terrible mistakes, but I want to make things right. Please, give us another chance. I looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time in months. The man I had loved for 17 years, the father of my child, stood before me, broken and humbled. Part of me wanted to say yes to try and rebuild what we'd lost, but another part, the part that had endured the pain and betrayal, held firm. Leon, I said, my voice steady despite the storm of emotions raging inside me. I appreciate that you want to make amends, but too much has happened. This isn't just about you and me anymore. It's about Tyler, about our family. Leon's face crumpled. I know I've hurt Tyler. I want to make it up to him, to both of you. Just then, Tyler walked into the kitchen. He stopped short when he saw us, his eyes darting between his father and me. What's going on? He asked, his voice wary. I took a deep breath. Your father and I were just talking about our future, about what's best for all of us. Tyler's jaw set in a determined line. And what did you decide? I looked at Leon, then back at our son. I think it's time we all had an honest conversation about that. For the next hour we talked, really talked, in a way we hadn't in years. Tyler spoke about his anger, his feelings of abandonment. Leon listened, tears streaming down his face as he realized the full impact of his actions. And I found myself speaking truths I'd been holding back for too long. I love you both, I said, my voice thick with emotion. But love isn't always enough. We need trust, respect, and a shared vision for our future. And right now, I'm not sure we have that. Leon nodded, his face a mask of pain and understanding. I know I've broken your trust, both of you, and I'll spend the rest of my life trying to earn it back if you'll let me. Tyler looked at his father, then at me. What does this mean for us, for our family? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. It means we're going to move forward, but in a different way. Your father and I, we're going to separate, officially. The words hung in the air, heavy with finality. Tyler's eyes widened, but I saw a flicker of relief there, too. But, I continued, reaching out to take Tyler's hand, we're still a family, just a different kind of family. One where both your father and I can be the best versions of ourselves for you. Leon nodded, his voice choked with emotion. Your mother's right. We both love you more than anything, Tyler. That will never change. As the reality of our decision settled over us, I felt a strange mix of sadness and liberation. The path ahead wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in months, it felt right. We spent the rest of the day together, not as a married couple and their son, but as three individuals finding a new way to be a family. We laughed, we cried, and we began the process of healing. That night, as I lay in bed, I reflected on the journey that had brought us here. The pain, the betrayal, the fight to reclaim my sense of self. I realized that while I hadn't emerged unscathed, I had emerged stronger. I thought about the women who had supported me through this ordeal. Tessa, with her unwavering friendship, my mother with her tough love, even Edith's mother Brenda, whose revelations had helped me see the truth. And I thought about Tyler, our beautiful, resilient son who had shown a strength beyond his years. As I drifted off to sleep, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The future was uncertain, but I was ready to face it. Not as Leon's wife, not as a victim of betrayal, but as Irma, mother, nurse, survivor. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new joys, and new opportunities for growth. And I would meet them head-on, with the knowledge that I was capable of weathering any storm. The journey wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But for the first time in a long time, I was excited to see where it would lead. I stood in front of the mirror, smoothing down my dress for the 100th time. The restaurant reservation was in an hour, and Travis had promised this would be a special night. My stomach fluttered with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Samantha, you ready? Travis called from the living room. Just a minute. I took a deep breath, grabbed my purse, and stepped out. Travis whistled appreciatively. Wow, babe, you look stunning. I smiled, drinking in his appearance. He was dressed in a sharp suit, his sandy hair perfectly tousled. You clean up pretty well yourself. He grinned, that charming, boyish grin that had first caught my attention 3 years ago. Shall we? He offered his arm, and we headed out. The restaurant was upscale, with soft lighting and white tablecloths. As we perused the menu, I couldn't help but wonder about the occasion. Travis, what's all this about? I asked, curiosity getting the better of me. He reached across the table, taking my hand. Can't a guy treat his girl to a nice dinner? I raised an eyebrow. Of course, but you've been acting mysterious all week. He chuckled. Always the detective, aren't you? Let's order first, okay? Throughout dinner, Travis kept the conversation light, regaling me with stories from his latest business trip. I found myself relaxing, enjoying the evening. As we finished our dessert, Travis suddenly grew serious. Sam, these past 3 years have been amazing. My heart began to race. Was this going where I thought it was? You're the best thing that's ever happened to me, he continued, reaching into his pocket. I can't imagine my life without you. He pulled out a small velvet box and got down on one knee. The other diners around us fell silent. Samantha Marie Cooper, will you marry me? I stared at the sparkling diamond ring, my mind whirling. This was it, the moment I'd dreamed of, yet somehow never quite believed would happen. Travis, my free-spirited, adventure-loving boyfriend, was proposing. Sam? Travis prompted, a hint of nervousness in his voice. I realized I'd been silent for too long. Yes, I breathed. Yes, I'll marry you. The restaurant erupted in applause as Travis slipped the ring on my finger and pulled me in for a kiss. Later that night, as we lay in bed, reality began to set in. We're getting married, I murmured, still in disbelief. Travis pulled me closer. I can't wait to start our life together. I hesitated, then voiced the concern that had been nagging at me. Travis, you know I love you, but are you sure you're ready for this? Marriage is a big step. He propped himself up on an elbow, looking down at me. Sam, I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You're the one who grounds me, who makes me want to be a better man. His words warmed my heart, but a small part of me still worried. Travis had always been the spontaneous one, while I was the planner. Could we really make this work? As if reading my thoughts, Travis said, I know I've been a bit of a wild card, but I'm ready to settle down, with you. I smiled, pushing my doubts aside. I love you, Travis. I love you too, Sam. Always. The next morning, I woke to the smell of coffee. Travis was in the kitchen, attempting to make breakfast. Morning, fiancé, he said with a grin, presenting me with a slightly burnt piece of toast. I laughed, kissing him on the cheek. For effort. As I sipped my coffee, my phone buzzed. It was a text from my best friend, Lisa. Heard the news. Can't believe Travis finally popped the question. Call me ASAP. I was about to reply when Travis's phone rang. His face lit up as he answered. Mom, yes, she said yes. I froze. I'd completely forgotten about Travis's mother, Mabel, the woman who'd never quite warmed up to me, who always seemed to find fault with everything I did. As Travis chatted excitedly with his mother, I felt a knot forming in my stomach. What had I gotten myself into? I smoothed my wedding dress one last time before stepping out of the dressing room. My heart raced as I walked down the aisle, Travis beaming at me from the altar. Despite my lingering doubts, I pushed them aside. This was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. Fast forward 6 months, and I found myself staring at our joint bank account, my stomach in knots. Travis, I called out, trying to keep my voice steady. Can you come here for a second? He sauntered into the room, still in his pajamas despite it being well past noon. What's up, babe? I pointed at the screen. Care to explain this $500 charge at the golf course? Travis shrugged. Just a guy's day out. No big deal. No big deal? I echoed, incredulous. Travis, we're supposed to be saving for our future. Remember the house we talked about? He waved his hand dismissively. Relax, Sam. We've got plenty of time for all that boring stuff. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. This isn't the first time, Travis. Last month it was that expensive watch. Before that... Geez, are you keeping tabs on me now? Travis interrupted, his tone sharp. I thought we were partners, not warden and prisoner. His words stung. That's not fair. I'm just trying to be responsible. Travis's face softened. He pulled me into a hug. I'm sorry, babe. I know you're looking out for us. I'll try to be better, okay? I nodded, wanting to believe him. But a nagging voice in my head whispered that this conversation was far from over. Later that week, I was struggling with groceries when our neighbor, Edward, appeared out of nowhere. Need a hand? He asked, his warm smile instantly putting me at ease. That would be great, thanks, I said gratefully. As we walked to my apartment, Edward chatted easily about the neighborhood. I found myself relaxing, laughing at his jokes. Where's Travis? Edward asked as we reached my door. I hesitated. Oh, he's out with friends. Edward's eyebrow raised slightly, but he didn't comment. Well, if you ever need help again, don't hesitate to ask. That's what neighbors are for, right? I smiled, touched by his kindness. Thank you, Edward. I really appreciate it. That night, I confronted Travis about his absence. You said you'd be home to help with errands today. Travis looked up from his phone, annoyed. Something came up at work. I texted you. No, you didn't, I said, checking my messages. I had to lug everything myself. If Edward hadn't... Edward? Travis's eyes narrowed. What's he got to do with this? I explained about the groceries, surprised by Travis's reaction. He was just being neighborly. Travis scoffed. Yeah, I bet he was. Look, Sam, I don't like you hanging around other guys. I stared at him, shocked. Are you serious right now? He's our neighbor, Travis, and maybe if you were around more. Oh, here we go again, Travis groaned. You know what? I'm going out. Travis? Wait, but he was already gone, slamming the door behind him. I sank onto the couch, fighting back tears. This wasn't how I imagined married life would be. Travis's charm, once so alluring, now felt like a mask hiding something darker. The next morning, I woke to find Travis's side of the bed empty. A text from him read, Crashed at Mike's. See you tonight. I sighed, getting ready for work. As I left the apartment, I ran into Edward again. Morning, Samantha, he said cheerfully. Then, noticing my expression, everything okay? I forced a smile. Just fine. Have a good day, Edward. As I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had to change. The man I married was slipping away, replaced by someone I barely recognized. And the scariest part? A small voice inside me wondered if that might not be such a bad thing after all. I was in the middle of a crucial work presentation when my phone buzzed incessantly. Ignoring it, I focused on my clients. As soon as the meeting ended, I checked my messages. 15 missed calls from Travis. My heart raced as I dialed him back. Sam, finally. Travis's voice was strained. It's Mom. Dad, he's gone. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Oh, Travis, I'm so sorry. What happened? Heart attack. I'm at the hospital now. Can you come? I rushed to the hospital, finding Travis slumped in a waiting room chair. His eyes were red-rimmed, his usual charm replaced by raw grief. I held him as he sobbed, my own heart aching for his loss. Days blurred into weeks as we helped Mabel with funeral arrangements and settling affairs. Travis threw himself into taking care of his mother, spending more and more time at her house. One evening, as I was heating up another solo dinner, Travis called. Hey, babe, I'm staying at Mom's again tonight. I sighed, frustration bubbling up. Travis, it's been 3 weeks. When are you coming home? Sam, she needs me. You understand, right? I bit back a retort. Of course. It's just, I miss you. There was a pause. I miss you too. Look, why don't we bring Mom to stay with us for a while? It'll be easier on everyone. My stomach dropped. Stay with us? For how long? Just until she's back on her feet. A couple of weeks, tops. I wanted to protest, but couldn't find the words. Okay, I said finally, if you think it's best. The next day, Travis arrived with Mabel and several suitcases. I plastered on a smile, helping them settle in. That night, as we lay in bed, I whispered, Travis, are you sure about this? Our apartment's not that big. He turned to me, his expression hard. She's my mother, Sam. Where else is she supposed to go? I fell silent, the distance between us feeling wider than ever. Days turned into weeks, and Mabel showed no signs of leaving. She rearranged our kitchen, criticized my cooking, and monopolized the TV with her favorite shows. Travis seemed oblivious to my growing frustration. One evening, I came home to find Mabel had redecorated our living room. Surprise, she exclaimed. Doesn't it look so much better now? I stared at the frilly curtains and doilies covering every surface. Mabel, you can't just change our home without asking. Her face fell. I was only trying to help. Travis said it was fine. Did he now? I muttered, marching to our bedroom where Travis was lounging. Hey, babe, he said, not looking up from his phone. Travis, we need to talk about your mother. Travis, he sighed. What about her? She's taking over our home, and you're letting her. Travis sat up, frowning. She's going through a tough time, Sam. Can't you be more understanding? Understanding? I exploded. I've been nothing but understanding. But this is our home, Travis. Our life. When is she leaving? A look of surprise crossed his face. Leaving? Sam, she can't go back to that empty house. She's staying here. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. For how long? Travis shrugged. As long as she needs. I stared at him, disbelief turning to anger. And when were you planning on discussing this with me? Your wife? I didn't think I needed your permission to help my own mother, Travis snapped. It's not about permission, it's about respect, I shouted. This affects both of us, Travis. Or, have you forgotten we're supposed to be partners? Travis stood up, his face thunderous. You know what? I can't deal with this right now. I'm going out. As he stormed out, I sank onto the bed, tears of frustration streaming down my face. This wasn't the life I had signed up for. Something had to give, and I was terrified it might be me. I stared at the glossy brochure in my hands, my heart racing with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The luxury apartment complex looked like a dream come true. Spacious rooms, a state-of-the-art kitchen, and a breathtaking view of the city skyline. What do you think, babe? Travis asked, his eyes gleaming with enthusiasm. This could be our fresh start. I hesitated. It's beautiful, but Travis, can we afford this? With your mom living with us and our current expenses. He waved off my concerns. Sam, this is an investment in our future. We deserve this after everything we've been through. I couldn't deny the allure of a new beginning, a chance to escape the cramped quarters we'd been sharing with Mabel. How would we manage the down payment? Travis's smile widened. That's the best part. I've found a way to make it work. We just need to sign the papers, and it's ours. Against my better judgment, I found myself nodding. Okay, let's do it. The next day, we met with the real estate agent. As we went through the paperwork, a detail caught my eye. Wait, why is only my name on the loan application? Travis squeezed my hand. It's just a formality, Sam. My credit isn't great right now because of some business investments. But don't worry, we're in this together. I frowned, a knot forming in my stomach. I don't know, Travis. This is a huge commitment. Do you trust me? He asked, his eyes locking with mine. I swallowed hard. Of course, but then trust me on this. It's the smart move, I promise. Against the screaming protests of my intuition, I signed the papers. Travis's triumphant grin should have been reassuring, but instead, it sent a chill down my spine. Weeks later, we moved into our new apartment. As I unpacked boxes in our gleaming kitchen, Mabel shuffled in, her face pinched with disapproval. I don't know why we had to move, she grumbled. Our old place was just fine. I bit back a retort. This place has more space for all of us, Mabel. You'll get used to it. She harumphed and wandered off. I sighed, wondering for the 1,000th time when she'd return to her own home. That evening, as Travis and I sat on our new balcony, I broached the subject. Travis, have you talked to your mom about her plans? He tensed. What do you mean? Well, we moved here for a fresh start, right? I thought maybe she'd be ready to go back to her place soon. Travis's expression darkened. Sam, we've been over this. Mom needs us right now. But for how long? I pressed. It's been months and she's showing no signs of leaving. Because she's not going to leave, Travis snapped. This is her home now, too. I felt like I'd been doused in ice water. When did we decide this? I decided it, he said firmly. She's my mother, Sam. Where else is she supposed to go? But Travis, this apartment, the loan, it's all in my name. We can't afford. He cut me off. We'll make it work. You're being selfish, Sam. I thought you were better than this. As he stormed off, leaving me alone on the balcony, the full weight of my situation crashed down on me. I was trapped. Financially responsible for a home I couldn't afford, living with a mother-in-law who'd never leave, and married to a man I barely recognized anymore. My phone buzzed with a text. It was Edward. Hey neighbor, noticed you moved. Everything okay? I stared at the message, tears welling in my eyes. In that moment, I realized I had a choice to make. I could continue down this path of misery, or I could fight back. But fighting back meant admitting that my marriage, my life, everything I'd built, it was all crumbling around me. With shaking hands, I typed a reply to Edward. No, everything is not okay. Can we talk? I stared at the stack of bills on the kitchen counter, my hands shaking. The mortgage payment was due in 3 days, and our account was nearly empty. Again, I took a deep breath and dialed Travis's number. Hey, babe, he answered, his voice cheerful. What's up? Travis, we need to talk about the mortgage, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. It's due soon, and we're short. Again. There was a pause. Oh, right. Listen, can you cover it this month? I've got some big deals in the works, but they haven't come through yet. I felt my blood pressure rising. Travis, I've been covering it for the past 3 months. This was supposed to be our dream home. Remember? Our shared responsibility? I know, he said, his tone dismissive, but you're doing so well at work, and I'm still trying to get my business off the ground. It's just temporary, I promise. Before I could respond, I heard Mabel's voice in the background. Travis, dear, are we still going shopping later? My jaw clenched. Is that your mother? Are you taking her shopping while we can't even pay our mortgage? Sam, don't start, Travis warned. Look, I've got to go. We'll figure it out, okay? Love you. The line went dead. I stared at the phone in disbelief, then slumped into a chair, fighting back tears. A knock at the door startled me. I opened it to find Edward, holding a basket of muffins. Hey, neighbor, he said with a warm smile. Thought you could use a pick-me-up. I must have looked worse than I thought because his expression quickly turned to concern. Samantha, what's wrong? Before I knew it, I was spilling everything. The financial strain, Travis's irresponsibility, Mabel's constant presence. Edward listened patiently, his kind eyes never leaving mine. I'm so sorry you're going through this, he said when I finished. Have you considered talking to a financial advisor? Or maybe a lawyer? I shook my head. I can't afford either right now. And besides, Travis would never agree to it. Edward frowned. Samantha, this isn't just about Travis anymore. You need to protect yourself. His words hit me hard. I'd been so focused on keeping our marriage afloat that I'd neglected my own well-being. Just then, Travis and Mabel burst through the door, laden with shopping bags. Travis froze when he saw Edward. "What's going on here?" "Edward just stopped by to say hello," I said quickly. "Thanks for the muffins, Edward. I'll see you around." After Edward left, Travis rounded on me. What was he doing here? "He's our neighbor, Travis. He was being friendly." Travis scoffed. "A little too friendly, if you ask me." I felt something snap inside me. "Oh, that's rich coming from you. Where were you all day?" "Shopping, while I'm here trying to figure out how to pay our bills." "Don't be dramatic, Sam," Travis said, rolling his eyes. "I told you I'll handle it." "When?" I demanded. "When are you going to start acting like a responsible adult?" Mabel chimed in, her voice shrill. "Don't you dare speak to my son that way, after everything he's done for you." "Enough!" I shouted, surprising even myself. "I can't do this anymore. I'm drowning here, Travis. I need help." Travis's face hardened. "What are you saying?" I took a deep breath, steeling myself. "I'm saying that things need to change, now. Either we go to couples counseling and financial planning, or what?" Travis challenged. The words left my mouth before I could stop them. "Or I'm done. I'll file for divorce." The silence that followed was deafening. Travis stared at me, shock and anger warring on his face. Mabel gasped dramatically, clutching her pearls. In that moment, looking at their stunned faces, I realized I'd reached a crossroads. The life I'd built with Travis, the future I'd imagined, it was all hanging by a thread. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep holding on. "Your choice, Travis," I said quietly. "What's it going to be?" I paced our living room, anxiety gnawing at my insides. It had been 2 days since my ultimatum to Travis, and he'd barely spoken me since. The tension in our apartment was suffocating. The front door opened and Travis walked in. My heart raced as I searched his face for any sign of what he'd decided. "Sam, we need to talk," he said, his voice unnervingly calm. I nodded, bracing myself. "Okay. What have you decided?" Travis took a deep breath. "I want a divorce." The words hit me like a physical blow. Despite everything, I hadn't truly believed he'd choose this. "What, Travis? I didn't mean—" "I know what you meant," he interrupted, "but it made me realize something. This isn't working, Sam. It hasn't been for a long time. I felt like I was drowning. But we can fix this. Counseling, like I suggested." "It's too late for that," Travis said, his eyes not quite meeting mine. There's someone else." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. "Someone else?" I repeated, my voice barely a whisper. Travis nodded, looking almost relieved to have it out. "Her name is Stella. We've been seeing each other for— How long is a while?" "A while," I demanded, anger starting to replace the shock. He hesitated. "About 8 months." 8 months. The timeline hit me like a truck. "Since before we moved here? Before you convinced me to take out that loan?" Travis at least had the decency to look ashamed. "I'm sorry, Sam. I never meant for it to happen. But Stella and we connect in a way you and I never did." I laughed bitterly. "And let me guess, she doesn't mind your mother living with you?" "Actually," Travis said, straightening up, "Mom's moving in with Stella and me. We've found a place that's perfect for the 3 of us." The casual way he said it, like he was discussing weekend plans, made something snap inside me. "Perfect for the 3 of you? What about me, Travis? What about the life we built, the mortgage that's in my name?" He shrugged, and in that moment I saw him clearly for the first time. The charm, the promises, it had all been a facade. "You're doing well at work. I'm sure you'll figure it out." "Figure it out?" I repeated, incredulous. "You saddle me with a mortgage I can't afford, cheat on me for months, and now you're just walking away?" "I've already spoken to a lawyer," Travis said, pulling out a folder. "These are the divorce papers. It'll be easier if you just sign them now." I stared at the folder, feeling like I was in some surreal nightmare. "You want me to sign right now? Just like that?" "It's for the best, Sam," he said, his tone patronizing. "A clean break." My hand shook as I took the folder. I flipped through the pages, the legal jargon swimming before my eyes. One phrase jumped out at me. "The wife agrees to assume all financial responsibilities related to the marital home." "You're leaving me with all the debt?" I asked, my voice rising. "After everything you've done?" Travis had the audacity to look annoyed. "Come on, Sam. Don't make this difficult. It's a fair deal." I looked at him. This man I thought I knew. This man I had loved. In his eyes, I saw nothing but cold indifference. The realization hit me like a physical blow. I meant nothing to him. I never had. "Get out," I whispered. "What?" "Get out," I screamed, throwing the folder at him. "Get out of my house, you lying, cheating bastard." Travis backed away, hands raised. "Fine. I'll give you some time to calm down, but I'll be back for those papers, Sam. This is happening whether you like it or not." As the door slammed behind him, I collapsed onto the floor, sobs racking my body. My world had just imploded, and I was left alone in the ruins, drowning in debt and betrayal. Through my tears, I caught sight of my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked broken, defeated. But as I held her gaze, I felt something stir deep inside, a spark of defiance, of rage. Travis thought he could walk all over me and get away with it. He was wrong. Dead wrong. I stared at the empty spaces in my apartment, the silence deafening. Travis had moved out yesterday, taking Mabel with him. The divorce papers lay unsigned on the coffee table, mocking me. My phone buzzed. Another text from Travis. "Sign the papers, Sam. My lawyer's getting impatient." I threw the phone across the room, watching it bounce off the couch. The anger that had been simmering for days suddenly boiled over. I grabbed my keys and stormed out, needing to escape the suffocating walls. As I reached the elevator, I ran into Edward. His concerned eyes met mine. "Samantha, are you okay?" I laughed bitterly. "Oh, I'm fantastic. My cheating ex-husband has left me with a mountain of debt and run off with his mistress. I'm living the dream." Edward's face softened. "I'm so sorry. Is there anything I can do?" I was about to brush him off when an idea struck me. "Actually, yes. You're in real estate, right? I need your help." An hour later, we sat in a cafe, poring over documents. Edward's expression grew grimmer with each page. "Samantha, this is worse than I thought. The loan terms are predatory and the property value is inflated. Travis really screwed you over." The confirmation of Travis's betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. "What can I do?" Edward hesitated. "There might be a way, but it's not exactly legal." I leaned forward, desperation overriding my usual caution. "Tell me." As Edward outlined his plan, a part of me recoiled at the idea. But a larger part, the part consumed by rage and hurt, latched onto it like a lifeline. That night, I sat at my computer, fingers flying over the keyboard. Years of managing Travis's accounts gave me intimate knowledge of his finances. It didn't take long to find what I was looking for: hidden accounts, shady transactions, evidence of fraud. My phone buzzed again. "Travis, where are the signed papers, Sam? Don't make this difficult." I smiled grimly, typing out a response. "We need to talk. Meet me at the cafe tomorrow at 2 p.m. The next day, I arrived early, setting up my laptop. My heart raced as I saw Travis saunter in, his usual cocky grin in place. "Finally come to your senses?" he asked, sliding into the seat across from me. I took a deep breath. "Not exactly. I've been doing some digging, Travis. Care to explain these?" I turned the laptop towards him, showing the evidence of his financial misdeeds. The color drained from his face. "How did you—" "Doesn't matter," I cut him off. "What matters is what happens next. You have two choices. One, you take on the mortgage and all associated debts. Or two, I turn this over to the authorities." Travis's eyes narrowed. "You're bluffing. You'd go down with me." "Maybe," I conceded. "But I have nothing left to lose thanks to you. Can you say the same?" For a moment, I saw fear flicker in his eyes. Then his face hardened. "Nice try, Sam. But you forget. I know you. You don't have the guts to go through with this." He stood up, looming over me. "Sign the papers, or I'll make your life a living hell. You think you're struggling now? Just wait." As he stormed out, leaving me trembling in my seat, I realized he was right. The old Samantha wouldn't have the courage to follow through. But I wasn't that woman anymore. With shaking hands, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number I'd memorized earlier. "Hello? Is this the FBI's Financial Crimes Division? I'd like to report a case of fraud." As I began detailing Travis's crimes, I felt a strange mix of terror and exhilaration. There was no going back now. I was all in, for better or worse. The game had changed, and this time I was determined to win. My heart pounded as I stood outside the quaint suburban house. This was it, the moment of truth. I took a deep breath and rang the doorbell. A pretty blonde woman answered, her smile faltering as she saw me. "Can I help you? Are you Stella?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. She nodded, confusion evident on her face. "I'm Samantha, Travis's wife." The color drained from Stella's face. I don't understand. Travis said he was divorced. Not quite, I said, my anger rising. Is he here? As if on cue, Travis appeared behind Stella. His eyes widened in shock. Sam? What are you doing here? I pushed past them into the house, Stella too stunned to stop me. We need to talk, all of us. In the living room, I saw Mabel looking bewildered. Samantha, what's going on? I turned to face them all. It's time for the truth to come out. Travis, why don't you start by explaining to Stella how you're still married? Or maybe you'd like to tell her about the fraudulent financial dealings I uncovered. Travis's face contorted with rage. You had no right. I had every right, I shouted. You left me drowning in debt, Travis. Debt you tricked me into taking on. Stella's voice was barely a whisper. Is this true? Travis's charm kicked in, his voice smooth. Baby, it's not what it sounds like. Sam's just bitter. Don't you dare, I cut him off. I turned to Stella. I have proof of everything, the affairs, the fraud, all of it. I pulled out my phone, showing her the documents I'd gathered. Stella's face crumpled as she scrolled through, the evidence undeniable. How could you? She whispered to Travis. Travis's facade finally cracked. I can explain, but there was no explaining away the truth. As Stella and Mabel absorbed the reality of Travis's deceptions, I felt a weight lifting from my shoulders. So what now? Travis asked, his voice hollow. You've ruined everything. Are you happy? I looked at him, this man I once loved, and felt nothing but pity. This isn't about being happy, Travis. The FBI is already investigating your finances. You're going to face the consequences of your actions. Mabel let out a strangled sob. My boy. What have you done? I turned to her, my voice softening. Mabel, I'm sorry, but you can't stay here anymore. I've arranged for you to move to a nice assisted living facility. Travis will cover the costs. It's the least he can do. Travis's head snapped up. You can't do that. Actually, I can, I said, my voice firm. It's all part of the deal I worked out with the prosecutor. You take responsibility for your actions or you face the full extent of the law. The fight seemed to drain out of Travis. He slumped onto the couch, head in his hands. Stella, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. I want in on this deal. He lied to me too. Used me. I nodded, a spark of understanding passing between us. Of course. We'll make sure he pays alimony to both of us. As the reality of his situation sank in, Travis looked up at me, his eyes pleading. Sam, please. We can work this out. I'll do anything. For a moment, I remembered the charming man I fell in love with. But that man was gone, if he ever truly existed. It's too late for that, Travis, I said softly. You made your choices. Now you have to live with them. I turned to leave, feeling lighter than I had in years. At the door, I paused and looked back at the chaos I was leaving behind. Stella was crying, Mabel was praying, and Travis looked broken, but I felt no satisfaction, no joy in their pain. Only relief that it was finally over. As I stepped out into the sunlight, I took a deep breath. For the first time in years, I felt free. The road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to face it, on my own terms. I pulled out my phone and dialed Edward's number. It's done, I said when he answered. Thank you for everything. You did it, Samantha, he replied, his voice warm. I'm proud of you. As I hung up, I smiled. The shadows of betrayal were finally lifting, and I was stepping into the light of a new day, stronger, wiser, and ready for whatever came next. The shrill ring of my phone pierced the quiet of my kitchen. I wiped my hands on my apron and answered, expecting to hear Rachel's cheerful voice. Instead, my daughter's sobs crackled through the speaker. Mom, I can't stand living here anymore, Rachel wailed. They treat me like a stranger and won't let me visit Dad. My heart clenched. Sweetheart, slow down. What's going on? Aunt Linda and Uncle Gary, she hiccuped. They're awful. I feel like a prisoner. I gripped the counter, steadying myself. What do you mean they won't let you visit your father? They say he's a bad influence, Rachel sniffled, that I shouldn't waste my time with him. Mom, I want to come home. Of course, honey, I said, my mind racing. We'll figure this out, I promise. As soon as we hung up, I dialed Robert's number. My husband answered on the third ring, his voice gruff. Evelyn? What's wrong? It's Rachel, I said. She just called hysterical. Did you know Linda and Gary have been keeping her from seeing you? Robert sighed heavily. Come on, Ev, you know how dramatic teenagers can be. This isn't drama, Robert, I snapped. Your sister is manipulating our daughter, again. Now, hold on, he started, but I cut him off. No, you hold on. Our daughter is hurting and you're defending Linda. When are you going to put our family first? The line went quiet for a moment. Let me talk to Linda, Robert finally said. I'm sure there's been some misunderstanding. I laughed bitterly. Oh, I'm sure there has been, but not the kind you're thinking. After hanging up, I paced the kitchen, my mind whirling. Linda had always been a thorn in my side, but this was a new low. I thought back to the day Rachel announced she was moving in with her aunt and uncle. Linda had been so sickeningly sweet, promising to guide Rachel through her college years. The doorbell startled me from my thoughts. I opened the front door to find my best friend, Patricia, holding a bottle of wine. I could hear you fuming from down the street, she said with a wry smile. Thought you might need this. I ushered her inside, grateful for the company. As we settled on the couch, I filled Patricia in on Rachel's call and Robert's dismissive response. Patricia's eyes widened. That witch, she muttered. And Robert's still making excuses for her? I nodded, taking a long sip of wine. I don't know what to do, Pat. I can't just sit here while Linda poisons Rachel against us. Then don't, Patricia said firmly. Fight back. You've let Linda walk all over you for years. It's time to show her you're not going to take it anymore. I stared at my friend, a mix of fear and determination bubbling up inside me. You're right, I said slowly. But how? Patricia leaned forward, her eyes glinting. We start digging. Linda's bound to have skeletons in her closet. Find them and use them. As we brainstormed, my phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. Aunt Linda took my phone, using Gary's iPad. Please help. My hands shook as I showed Patricia the message. That's it, I said, standing up. I'm going over there right now. Patricia grabbed my arm. Wait, Evelyn, we need a plan. Charging in there will only make things worse. I sank back onto the couch, deflated. You're right, but I can't just abandon Rachel. We won't, Patricia assured me. But we need to be smart about this. Linda's played this game for years. It's time to beat her at it. As we plotted our next move, I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a long, painful battle. But for Rachel's sake, I was ready to fight. Linda had no idea what was coming. The next morning, I marched into Robert's study, determined to make him see reason. He looked up from his laptop, his brow furrowing at my expression. We need to talk about Rachel, I said, my voice tight with frustration. Robert sighed, leaning back in his chair. Evelyn, I told you it's just teenage drama. Linda wouldn't. Stop defending her. I snapped. Our daughter is miserable, and you're brushing it off like it's nothing. You're overreacting, Robert said, his tone patronizing. Rachel's always been sensitive. She'll adjust. I felt my temper flare. Overreacting? Robert, they're controlling her every move. How can you not see what's happening? Before he could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Rachel, using Gary's iPad again. My heart raced as I read her message. Uncle Gary told me you and Dad are planning to divorce. Is it true? I showed Robert the text, watching the color drain from his face. Still think I'm overreacting? I asked coldly. Robert's jaw clenched. I'll talk to Gary. This is getting out of hand. Getting out of hand? I laughed bitterly. It's been out of hand since the day Rachel moved in with them. Why can't you stand up to your sister for once? You don't understand, Robert muttered, avoiding my gaze. It's complicated. Then explain it to me, I demanded. What hold does Linda have over you? Robert's silence spoke volumes. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized there was more to this story than I knew. Robert, I said slowly, what aren't you telling me? He opened his mouth to respond when Rachel burst through the front door, tears streaming down her face. We rushed to meet her in the hallway. Rachel, honey, what happened? I asked, pulling her into a hug. Between sobs, she choked out, I heard Aunt Linda on the phone. She was talking about Dad, about some woman named Melissa. I felt Robert stiffen beside me. What about Melissa? He asked, his voice strained. Rachel looked up at him, her eyes wide. She said you had an affair with her, that you have another kid. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. I stumbled back, staring at Robert in disbelief. Is this true? Robert's face crumpled. Evelyn, I can explain. I cut him off, my voice ice cold. Just don't. Rachel looked between us, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. I shouldn't have said anything. I pulled her close, stroking her hair. No, sweetheart, you did the right thing. This isn't your fault. Robert reached out, but I flinched away. Both of you just give me a minute, I said, retreating to the kitchen. My hands shook as I gripped the counter, trying to process this bombshell. An affair, another child. How long had Linda known? How long had she been using this to manipulate Robert? I heard hushed voices from the hallway, then footsteps approaching. Robert appeared in the doorway, his face a mask of guilt and fear. Evelyn, he began, I know I've made mistakes, but mistakes? I interrupted, my voice rising. You call this a mistake? How long, Robert? How long have you been lying to me? He flinched at my words. It was years ago, before Rachel was born. I never meant for any of this to happen. I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. And Linda's known all this time, hasn't she? That's why you always take her side. She's been blackmailing you. Robert's silence was all the confirmation I needed. I felt a surge of determination, tinged with rage. Well, I said, straightening up, it ends now. I won't let Linda use this to control our family anymore. And you, I pointed at Robert, you have a lot of explaining to do. To me and to your daughter. As I brushed past him to comfort Rachel, I realized this was just the beginning. The battle lines were drawn, and I was ready for war. The annual Parker family barbecue was always a tense affair, but this year, the air crackled with unspoken accusations and barely concealed hostility. I stood at the grill, flipping burgers with more force than necessary, my eyes constantly darting to Linda's smug face across the yard. Rachel huddled near me, her eyes downcast. Mom, I don't want to be here, she whispered. I know, sweetie, I murmured. We'll leave soon, I promise. Robert approached, his face a mask of forced cheerfulness. Everything okay over here? Before I could answer, Linda sauntered over, Gary trailing behind her like an obedient puppy. Oh, Robert, she cooed. I was just telling everyone how proud we are of Rachel. She's become such a wonderful little housekeeper at our place. I felt Rachel stiffen beside me. What do you mean? I asked, my voice dangerously low. Linda's smile was saccharine. Well, she's just so good at keeping things tidy. Dishes, laundry, you name it. We hardly have to lift a finger anymore. That's not Rachel's job, I snapped. She's there to focus on her studies, not be your maid. Now, Evelyn, Linda skied, don't be so sensitive. Rachel needs to learn responsibility. Responsibility? I echoed, my temper flaring. Is that what you call exploiting my daughter? Robert stepped between us. Ladies, please, this isn't the time or place. I rounded on him. And when is the time, Robert? When are you going to stand up for your daughter? The gathering had gone quiet, all eyes on our little group. Linda's smile never wavered. Your daughter is just like you, Evelyn, always overreacting. Something inside me snapped. Overreacting? You've been manipulating and controlling Rachel since the day she moved in. You've restricted her allowance, cut her off from her friends, and now I find out you've been using her as free labor? Linda's eyes narrowed. You ungrateful little... That's enough, Robert's voice boomed across the yard. For a moment, I thought he was finally taking our side, but then he turned to me, his expression cold. Evelyn, you're making a scene. Maybe you should take Rachel home. I stared at him in disbelief. You're still defending her? After everything? Rachel tugged at my sleeve. Mom, please, can we just go? I nodded, my heart breaking for my daughter. As we turned to leave, Linda called out, Oh, Rachel, dear, don't forget you promised to help me with the church fundraiser next weekend. Rachel froze. I can't, she stammered. I have plans with Mom. Linda's eyes glittered. But you promised, dear, you wouldn't want to disappoint the whole congregation, would you? I saw the conflict on Rachel's face and made a split-second decision. Actually, Linda, I said, my voice steady, Rachel won't be available. She's moving back home, today. The silence that followed was deafening. Linda's face contorted with rage. You can't do that, she hissed. Watch me, I retorted, putting an arm around Rachel's shoulders. As we walked away, I heard Linda's shrill voice behind us. Robert, are you going to let her do this? After everything we've done for you? I didn't wait to hear Robert's response. In the car, Rachel burst into tears. I'm sorry, Mom. I should have told you sooner about everything. I squeezed her hand. This isn't your fault, sweetheart. We're going to fix this, I promise. As we drove home, my mind raced. I knew this was far from over. Linda wouldn't let Rachel go without a fight, and I had a sinking feeling that Robert would once again side with his sister. But looking at Rachel's tear-stained face, I felt a fierce determination well up inside me. No matter what it took, I would protect my daughter and expose Linda's manipulations. The gloves were off, and I was ready for battle. The moment Robert walked through the door that evening, I was ready for him. Rachel had gone to bed early, exhausted from the day's events, leaving us alone to confront the elephant in the room. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the anger simmering beneath the surface. Robert sighed, loosening his tie. "Evelyn, if this is about the barbecue—" "This is about everything," I cut him off. "Your sister, your daughter, your complete inability to stand up for your family." His face hardened. "That's not fair. You know how complicated things are with Linda." "Complicated?" I laughed bitterly. "What I know is that our daughter was miserable living with her, and you did nothing." "Linda was trying to help," Robert argued weakly. I felt my temper flare. Help? By treating Rachel like a servant? By cutting her off from her friends and family? "You're exaggerating," he muttered, but I could see the doubt in his eyes. "Am I?" I challenged. "Then explain to me why you stood there and let Linda humiliate me in front of everyone, why you're always taking her side over ours." Robert's shoulders slumped. "It's not that simple, Evelyn. Linda, she knows things. About me, about our family, things that could destroy us if they came out." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What things, Robert? What could possibly justify letting your sister treat your daughter this way?" He opened his mouth to respond when my phone buzzed. It was a text from Linda. "You think you've won? Think again. Rachel comes back, or everyone learns Robert's dirty little secret." I showed Robert the message, watching the color drain from his face. "What secret, Robert?" I demanded. "What does she have on you?" He collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands. I made a mistake years ago. Before Rachel was born, there was another woman, and there's a child. Linda's the only one who knows." The room seemed to spin. I gripped the back of a chair to steady myself. "You have another child?" I whispered, my voice barely audible. Robert nodded miserably. "I've been paying child support in secret all these years. Linda found out, and she's been using it to control me ever since." Rage and betrayal warred within me. "How could you keep this from me? From Rachel?" "I was afraid," he admitted. "Afraid of losing you, of hurting Rachel. Linda swore she'd keep it secret if I did what she wanted." "And what she wanted was to control our lives," I said bitterly. "To drive a wedge between us and Rachel." Robert reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Evelyn, please. I know I've made terrible mistakes, but I love you and Rachel more than anything. We can fix this." I stared at him, seeing him clearly for the first time in years. A man torn between loyalty to his sister and love for his family, paralyzed by fear and guilt. "You're right," I said slowly. "We can fix this, but not by giving in to Linda's blackmail." Robert's eyes widened. "What are you saying?" I straightened up, a plan forming in my mind. "I'm saying it's time we take control of our own story. We tell Rachel the truth, all of it, and then we confront Linda together. But the scandal, the family—" "The family is already in shambles," I interrupted. "At least this way we're being honest. It's the only way to break Linda's hold over us." Robert looked terrified, but I saw a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "You'd stand by me, even after learning this?" I took a deep breath. "I'm furious with you, Robert, but I love our family too much to let Linda destroy it. We'll deal with your betrayal, but first we need to unite against the real enemy." As I spoke the words, I felt a surge of determination. The path ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in years, I felt like we had a fighting chance. "Okay," Robert said quietly. "Let's do it. Let's tell Rachel everything." I nodded, steeling myself for the conversation that would change our family forever. Whatever came next, we would face it together. The morning after our confrontation, Robert and I sat Rachel down to tell her everything. Her face crumpled as Robert confessed to his affair and the existence of her half-sibling. I held her hand tightly, my heart breaking as I watched her world shift beneath her feet. "Why now?" Rachel asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why tell me this after all these years?" I took a deep breath. "Because Aunt Linda has been using this information to control us, sweetheart, and we're not going to let her do that anymore." Rachel's eyes flashed with anger. "So that's why you always let her walk all over us, Dad? Because you were afraid of your own mistakes?" Robert nodded, shame etched across his face. I'm so sorry, Rachel. I thought I was protecting our family, but I was just making things worse. As we talked through the implications, my phone buzzed incessantly. I ignored it, focusing on comforting Rachel. But when I finally checked, my blood ran cold. Linda had been busy. There were messages from family members, friends, even our neighbors, all of them expressing shock, disappointment, and in some cases outright disgust. Linda had spread the news of Robert's affair far and wide, twisting the narrative to paint me as the villain who had torn the family apart by overreacting to an ancient indiscretion. "She's turned everyone against us," I said, my voice shaking with fury and disbelief. Rachel grabbed my phone, scrolling through the messages with wide eyes. "How could she do this? Doesn't she care about how this affects me?" "Linda only cares about control," Robert said bitterly. "She's always been that way, even when we were kids." I stood up, pacing the room as my mind raced. We need to fight back. We can't let her narrative be the only one out there. Just then, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Patricia, her face etched with concern. "Evelyn, I came as soon as I heard. Are you okay?" I ushered her in, grateful for a friendly face. As we filled Patricia in on the full story, including Robert's confession, her expression hardened. "This ends now," Patricia declared. "Linda's gone too far. We need to expose her for the manipulative snake she is." Rachel, who had been quiet, suddenly spoke up. "I want to help. I'm tired of being a pawn in Aunt Linda's games." I looked at my daughter, seeing a determination in her eyes that mirrored my own. "Are you sure, sweetheart? This could get ugly." She nodded firmly. "I'm sure, Mom, it's time we stood up for ourselves." As we began to strategize, another text came through. This time it was from Gary, Linda's husband. "Evelyn, we need to talk. Linda's gone too far. I have information that could help you." I showed the message to the others, a mix of hope and suspicion coursing through me. Could this be the break we needed, or another of Linda's traps? "It could be a setup," Robert warned. "Or it could be our chance to turn the tables," Patricia countered. I looked at each of their faces, Robert's guilt-ridden but determined, Rachel's fierce and ready for battle, Patricia's supportive and strategic. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. "I'm meeting Gary," I announced. "But I'm not going alone. We're in this together now." As we prepared to face whatever Gary had in store, I felt a shift in the air. The fear and shame that had clouded our family for so long was lifting, replaced by a united front against Linda's tyranny. "Whatever happens," I said, looking at my family and friend, "we face it as one. Linda's reign of manipulation ends today." With those words, we stepped out into the uncertain future, ready to reclaim our lives and our family's honor. The battle ahead would be tough, but for the first time in years I felt hope blooming in my chest. We had the truth on our side, and together, we were stronger than any lie Linda could spin. The cafe where we agreed to meet Gary was bustling with the lunch crowd, but I barely noticed the noise. My heart pounded as I sat with Patricia, Robert, and Rachel, waiting for Linda's husband to arrive. "Are you sure about this?" Robert asked for the 100th time. I nodded, my jaw set. "We need to know what Gary has to say. It might be our only chance to turn the tables on Linda." Rachel squeezed my hand. "We're with you, Mom, no matter what." Just then Gary walked in, looking nervous and disheveled. He slid into the booth, his eyes darting around as if expecting Linda to appear at any moment. "Thank you for meeting us," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "You said you had information?" Gary nodded, pulling out a USB drive. "Linda's gone too far this time. I can't be part of it anymore. This drive contains financial records, emails, everything that shows how Linda's been manipulating the family for years." My hands shook as I took the drive. "Why are you doing this, Gary? Why now?" He looked down, shame etched across his face. "I should have done it years ago. But Linda, she has a way of making you feel like you have no choice. But when she started messing with Rachel's future, I knew I had to do something." "What do you mean, messing with my future?" Rachel asked, her voice sharp. Gary sighed heavily. "Linda's been siphoning money from your grandfather's estate, money that was meant for your education, Rachel. She's been using it to fund her own lifestyle and to keep people in line." The shock around the table was palpable. Patricia was the first to recover. "We need to go through those files immediately. If what Gary's saying is true, we have more than enough to expose Linda's manipulations." As we prepared to leave, Gary grabbed my arm. Be careful, Evelyn. Linda's desperate. She knows she's losing control, and that makes her dangerous. I nodded, a chill running down my spine. Thank you, Gary, for everything. Back at home, we huddled around my laptop as Patricia, tech-savvy as ever, combed through the files on the drive. With each document she opened, the depth of Linda's deceit became clearer. Look at this, Patricia said, pointing to an email chain. Linda's been blackmailing half the family. She's got dirt on everyone, and she's been using it to keep them in line. Rachel gasped as she read over Patricia's shoulder. She even tried to sabotage my college applications. How could she do this? I felt a rage building inside me, hot and fierce, because she's a control freak who can't stand the idea of anyone challenging her power. As we delved deeper into Linda's web of lies, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. I know what you're doing. Meet me at the old boathouse in an hour, or everything you care about goes up in flames. I showed the others, watching their faces pale. It has to be Linda, Robert said. She must have found out about Gary. You can't go, Rachel pleaded. It's too dangerous. But I knew I had no choice. This was our chance to end Linda's reign of terror once and for all. I have to, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. But I'm not going alone. We face this together, remember? As we piled into the car, heading towards the confrontation that would change everything, I felt a mix of fear and determination. Linda had pushed us to the brink, but we were pushing back. Whatever happened at that boathouse, I knew one thing for certain. Our family would never be the same again. The old boathouse loomed before us, dark and foreboding against the setting sun. As we approached, I gripped the USB drive in my pocket, our secret weapon against Linda's years of manipulation. This was it, the moment of truth. With a deep breath, I pushed open the creaking door, ready to face whatever Linda had in store for us. As we entered the dimly lit boathouse, my heart pounded in my chest. Linda stood in the center, her face a mask of fury and desperation. Gary hovered behind her, looking torn and afraid. Well, Linda sneered. The whole gang's here. How touching. I stepped forward, gripping the USB drive in my pocket. It's over, Linda. We know everything. She laughed, a brittle sound that sent chills down my spine. You think you know everything? You have no idea what I'm capable of. Robert moved to stand beside me. Linda, please, this has gone on long enough. Let's talk about this like family. Family, Linda spat. You gave up the right to call me family when you chose her over me. She pointed at me, her eyes blazing with hatred. Rachel stepped forward, her voice trembling but determined. Aunt Linda, why? Why did you try to sabotage my future? For a moment, Linda's mask slipped, revealing a flicker of shame, but it was quickly replaced by cold anger. Because you're just like your mother, always taking what should have been mine. What are you talking about? I demanded. Linda's laugh was bitter. Oh, poor naive Evelyn. Did you really think Robert chose you? He was supposed to marry my best friend. I had it all planned out, but then you came along and ruined everything. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I turned to Robert, searching his face for the truth. He looked stricken. Linda, that was years ago. I fell in love with Evelyn. It had nothing to do with your plans. Liar! Linda shrieked. She pulled out a gun, waving it wildly. You've all ruined everything, but I'm not going down alone. Time seemed to slow down. I saw Rachel's terrified face, Robert's protective stance, Patricia's hand reaching for her phone, and in that moment I knew what I had to do. Linda, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I have proof of everything you've done, the blackmail, the stolen money, all of it. I pulled out the USB drive. If anything happens to us, this information goes public. You'll lose everything. Linda's hand wavered, the gun shaking in her grip. You're bluffing. Am I? I took a step closer, my heart racing. You've spent years manipulating this family, Linda, but it ends now. We're not your puppets anymore. Gary suddenly moved, grabbing Linda's arm. She's right, Linda. It's over. Please, don't make this worse. For a tense moment, I thought Linda might pull the trigger anyway, but then, like a deflating balloon, all the fight seemed to leave her. The gun clattered to the floor, and she collapsed into sobs. As Gary comforted his wife, I turned to my family. Rachel threw herself into my arms, crying with relief. Robert embraced us both, whispering apologies and words of love. Patricia, ever practical, was already on the phone with the police. It's done, she mouthed to me over Rachel's shoulder. As we waited for the authorities to arrive, I felt a strange mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. We had faced our demons and come out the other side. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were still wounds to heal, trusts to rebuild. But for the first time in years, I felt hope blossoming in my chest. Linda's reign of terror was over. Our family had been tested, pushed to the brink, but we had survived. As I held my daughter and husband close, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. The sound of sirens in the distance signaled the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. As the blue lights flashed through the boathouse windows, I took a deep breath, ready to step into our new future. Scarred, but stronger for having weathered the storm. The weeks following the confrontation at the boathouse were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, family therapy sessions, and long, difficult conversations. Linda and Gary faced the consequences of their actions, both legally and within the family. As I watched them leave the courthouse after their sentencing, I felt a mix of relief and sadness. The Linda I once knew was gone, consumed by her own bitterness and jealousy. Our family gathered at our home for the first time since everything had come to light. The tension in the air was palpable as aunts, uncles, and cousins filed in, their faces a mix of confusion, hurt, and hope. I stood in the center of the living room, my heart pounding. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice shaky but determined. "We've been through a lot as a family, and it's time we face the truth together." Over the next hour, with Robert and Rachel by my side, we laid bare the years of manipulation, the stolen money, and the web of lies Linda had spun. There were gasps of shock, tears of betrayal, and moments of stunned silence. "We're not here to point fingers," Robert said, his voice thick with emotion. "We're here to heal, to rebuild the trust that was broken." As the truth sank in, I saw a change come over our family. The walls of suspicion and resentment began to crumble, replaced by a tentative understanding. Aunt Margaret, Linda's staunchest supporter, approached me with tears in her eyes. "Evelyn, I'm so sorry. We had no idea. Can you ever forgive us?" I hugged her tightly, my own tears falling. "There's nothing to forgive. We were all victims of Linda's manipulations. What matters now is that we move forward together." As the evening wore on, the atmosphere shifted. Stories were shared, old wounds acknowledged, and the first tentative steps toward reconciliation were taken. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of tension and awkward silences, but it was a start. Later that night, as the last of the family left, Robert, Rachel, and I sat together on the porch swing. The weight of the past weeks, months, and years seemed to lift slightly as we gazed at the stars. "Mom," Rachel said softly, "I'm proud of us, for standing up to Aunt Linda, for telling the truth." I squeezed her hand. "Me too, sweetheart. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary." Robert cleared his throat. "Evelyn, Rachel, I know I have a lot to make up for. My blindness to Linda's manipulations, my failure to protect our family. I'm so sorry. I promise to do better, to be the husband and father you both deserve." I looked at him, seeing the genuine remorse and love in his eyes. "It won't be easy," I said honestly. "We have a lot of trust to rebuild. But we'll do it together, day by day." Rachel leaned her head on my shoulder. "We've been through so much," she murmured. "Do you think we'll ever be okay?" I wrapped my arms around my daughter, pulling Robert closer too. "We will," I said, feeling a surge of hope in my chest. "We've been through the fire, and we've come out stronger. Together, we can overcome anything." As we sat there, our little family unit holding tight to each other, I felt a peace I hadn't known in years. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There were still wounds to heal, trusts to mend, and a family to rebuild. But for the first time in a long time, I was excited for the future. Linda's shadow no longer loomed over us. We were free to write our own story, to build the kind of loving, supportive family we all deserved. And as I looked at Robert and Rachel, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them united. The night air was cool, filled with the promise of new beginnings. As we sat there, wrapped in each other's arms, I realized that this wasn't just an ending. It was a beautiful new start,